We're live.
You pressed
What's
it.
up, everybody? I pressed the button.
Hi.
We can't go back. I really don't think we can. If I wanted to stop going live right now, I think I'd have to end the video and start a whole new video. We'd have to share a new link, and no one would know
Impossible.
what's going on.
Yeah, no.
So this is it. We're
This is
we're
it.
off. I
We're
guess we
here.
can do the thing where if I need to go, we can just both turn off our cameras and mics, and then just kind of let people know who are watching the YouTube in the future.
I have to think
skip ahead.
Yahoo would penalize us for that somehow.
Yahoo would.
Sorry, YouTube.
Yeah. Yahoo's not on top of anything. They would never notice it happened if they had a streaming platform and people were just streaming dead air.
You know, I have to say, I thought that I would never use the app again. And,
The
this
Yahoo
always
app?
Yeah, with
I
all,
love it.
the
I think
crummy
it's
updates
it
at
must
the
be
start.
different. It's different on Apple and Android, I think, because everyone was
Okay.
complaining about the Apple, and I was like, I don't get it. It seems fine to me. But then someone showed me a screenshot of the Apple one. I was like, oh, I get what you're talking about.
Well,
But anyway,
so
sorry. So you went back?
One thing in particular, which I'm actually wondering if it's changed, that really just crushed me, was the all caps font.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like that on Android. It must be. But
me
they
check.
changed the player names to show up in all caps, impact font. It just took up a lot of real estate. It felt like it was shouting at me all the time.
Oh yeah, it's I've got all caps. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree that it's
but
not that
it's-
appealing, but it's not killing me.
No, so it was killing me at the start of the season, and now I'm not sure if they've made it less egregious or if I've just adjusted, right? That's always the thing. We all hate change, and we all we all find our way to accepting it.
Yeah.
And I hate to be the cliche. There's sometimes when it happens, I'm I'm not getting used to this. And lo and behold.
Look. The thing is, it's still as much as we complain, it's still providing this immense value to our lives. You're going
Immense.
in and seeing your fantasy team and looking at free agents and having fun. So it's
Yeah.
how can you hate something that brings you so much joy? Obviously we also, since we're so obsessed, we wish it was so much better and we wish it did this and that. But hey, I mean, still pretty good. Even with the capital letters. But I mean, to me, it's just one thing that they would have to change, and then I could be the biggest Yahoo advocate. I would, for free, defend them whenever anyone else complained about them if they just did the one simple thing of letting you drop a player that's played and letting you add a player who's
Elon's
played.
a simple guy, everybody.
I just want that. I just want, and it's it works on Fantrax, it works on ESPN. It's just it's not that hard. If you drop someone who's already played today, then it doesn't take effect till tomorrow. And if you add someone after making that drop, that also doesn't take effect till tomorrow. Done. Okay, it's not that hard. It's easy. Do that. I'm telling you, free ad every podcast. When you're at the end, doing your credits, and you're and Yahoo, I'll be let me actually speak on that for a minute about how great Yahoo is. Think of how much value
Every
they're
single
giving.
time.
Yeah, I would do free advertising for them forever. But their loss. It's such an easy feature. Everyone else does it.
Well, then
Oh,
why
this
don't
player's
you
already played. This player's already played today.
player is uneditable. That's
we can't.
Fantrax language.
It's impossible.
Okay.
It's the whole system would explode
Oh, good.
if we let you drop Owen Tippett. He's already played. They already figured it out if you could drop someone on your bench.
Yeah,
Come
they
on.
did.
So they already took a step.
And you can even... No, you can't move someone on your bench to IR. Can you move someone on your bench to IR?
No, you could only... I'm pretty sure you can only drop them.
Yeah.
But you can move someone on your IR out to your bench, which was something. Remember, it used to be that if you had a player in your IR that then became healthy, but then their game started playing,
Yeah.
you couldn't even move them to your bench. So if you wanted to
get
add someone, you
legal.
couldn't because
Yeah.
it's and you're not allowed to add someone if you have someone healthy in your IR. So you were
Yeah.
stuck. But now you could drop someone else, move your IR person to your bench, and then make an ad drop. So
Thank
they've made
God
little
for
improvements.
progress. Yeah.
One day. Anyway, let's do this.
All
We got a
right.
great show here. I'm
I think
recording
we've got
from
I think
the
it's a pretty
in-laws.
good show.
Thank you. Oh, just pretty good. Okay, that's fair. I mean, not everyone can be
Hey, under promise, over deliver, baby.
sure. Hey, yeah, okay. I guess you're right. It's not I think it's our best show ever.
How's
We can
your,
all- I-
are you hanging in your matchup?
Ooh. something good just happened. I think a very critical thing for me to win was I have Kadri and Uyghur, and my
Oh,
opponent
good job.
has. So I guess I got. Well, Uyghur didn't score, but I see Kadri got an assist.
I
But
need
yeah,
I'd like Uyghur to remain off the score
ah,
sheet.
that could be fine for me. And my opponent has Ottinger. So I was just thinking the one thing that could really kill me is if Ottinger got like a shutout and like so then my guys got nothing and he got like 15 points, from so at least now Ottinger's not going to get a shutout. So there's 3 points off the board for him. Maybe even Calgary could win. So anyways, I'm up now by 14. I'm up by 14. We'll see. It's going to be it's going to be fun. And by fun, I mean not fun and stressful.
Terribly painful.
It's like, I like to say, I don't practice what I preach. I'm like, it's fun to be in a close match. That's why we're doing this. It's like, no, it's fun to be winning by like 50 and thinking about next week's moves. That's
see
for me the
people
most
making moves
fun.
for next week on like a Friday, and I'm just like, I don't think I've been in that position once this year. I don't think I think it's come down to Sunday. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm missing like 1 week, but I think every week it's come down to Sunday. I'm never
Actually, I don't think
able
I've had.
to get out in
Yeah.
front of a stream.
I've definitely had some bad losses. Last week was one of my worst losses ever. I don't know. I lost last week 321 to 256.
321 to 256.
My opponent had the top score in the
Yeah.
division, and I was almost at the bottom.
Oh, so
So it was like-
you let them waste it.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened there. Let me look at my team from last week. Granlund. Oh yeah, Granlund like missed again. You know it's not good. If Granlund's gonna miss time, it's just like you might as well just forget it. There's no point to play. It doesn't even look like everyone else did so badly on my team. Oh, it was like a busy week. I guess like 10 points was bad last week. Malkin at 10 points. Anyways, we should start the show, I guess. How's your matchup looking? You're gonna win now because Kucherov did something.
So I'm not going to win for sure. I'm up 10. I'm projected to win by like less than 2 points.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have some fun. We'll record
got,
and then also we'll give updates.
I
Should
would
we
like
have done
no,
this on the
no
show?
goals. No, I don't know.
No, who cares?
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna touch on it. All right, I'm gonna touch on it in my intro.
Okay, Dina says she just stood up. Maybe she can go in.
What's the cute thing Noah said?
Oh, it's not that cute now that she's not sleeping.
Did you
All right,
say
I'm just gonna
I'll
start.
see you
I'm
when
just gonna start.
when the sun comes up, Papa.
No, okay, I'll
That's
tell
a
you.
cute
She
one.
does say that every time. That's like
Yeah,
even like lost
that's
its
so
luster
cute.
on me now.
Oh, that's so cute. Though.
Today, like I have a whole little routine where I go through all of the people who are asleep. Like I say, like and
Oh, yeah.
Felix is asleep, and Cosmo is asleep, and she likes it. I go through it all, and then it ends with the neighborhood dogs, and I'm always like, and Coco's asleep, and Finn is asleep, and whatever. And I can say all the dogs. And then this time, I don't know, for the first time ever, I got to the dogs. She was like, "No doggies today, Papa." No dogs. And I was like, oh, okay. And then in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, I guess I need to replace it with someone else. So I picked some like obscure relative that I never say. And I was like, and Papa Marina's asleep. And she was like, Papa, go to sleep. Just go to sleep. I was like, oh, okay. So which made me feel like probably she's going to go to sleep. And now apparently 20 minutes later, she's up. Causing trouble again.
She should just maybe.
She should have let me do my thing.
and know
She
that
should have
you're
let
going.
me.
You've gone to sleep. No one can come back.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? She just like was just like, I guess I lost my chance. Anyway, let's start the show.
Let's start and
if Dina
finish
messages
the
me
show.
and asks me to do something,
You're gonna be like, you had your chance.
I'll just walk in, say
No,
you
you're
had your
not.
chance, and leave. Better luck
Daddy
next.
went to sleep. Dada gone to sleep.
All right, here we go. Yeah! Yes! Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who are... I didn't think about this at all. I gave this zero thought. I thought maybe as I was saying it, I would think of something. I didn't.
That was really bold.
Two guys who are...
Usually when you
Finished-
think of it like ahead of time, you don't think of something.
Two guys who are... What's going on in the world?
Are we live? Is this?
Yeah, we're
is this
live. We've been live
staying?
for a long time.
No, but is this staying in the show?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is not saying the show. This is back to just for the
why
YouTube
don't you
people.
make a reference to the picks for the thing for the
Oh.
tournament?
The tournament. Two guys who what, like, weren't
I
picked
don't
for
know.
the tournament?
I don't
Who
know.
won't be representing Canada in the Four Nations tournament? In our is there
No.
should I say the Four Nations podcast
All
tournament?
right. Who are we talking about
We were
first
edged
here?
out by Apples and Genos in the Four Nations podcast tournament. Is that funny?
It might be. I don't know.
We didn't laugh. Edged out by
Who
I don't know.
you could say we weren't selected, but we also didn't expect to be. We're not hockey players. No problem.
Okay. I just want to start. Let's
Me
just not do
too.
a joke today. Who cares?
No
I can
joke.
do what I can do what
Why
I
don't
want.
you
I'm
go
an adult.
classic? Hosted by
All
two
right.
guys who once
But one time had keeping Eric Carlson in their keeper
kept
pools.
both kept
Okay, I got it.
Karlsson.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
I got a little spin on that. Okay.
Ooh.
Yay! Yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who at one time both had Eric Carlson as keepers in their keeper pools, and now both are barely keeping up with what Eric Carlson is doing. How times have changed. I'm your host, Dylan Dubrowski, and with me to break down another week of NHL action, maybe I'll even check in on Eric Carlson. Didn't he have like a couple assists a couple games ago? We'll find out. The person that's going to help me look into that and many other things is the fantasy hockey robot, the Poobah prognostication, the IPP MVP himself, Brian Kahn. Brian, how's it going?
Hey, I am good. Surprisingly in my matchup right now, and I like a little moment of inspiration. Like it's happened to me this week. I know it's gonna happen to all of you, but I got to shut out two-time and reigning and defending Cupful champ Ryan, who's in my Cupful group chat, allied chat. And I was ready to just throw in the towel. Like I had a rough end to the last week. And I was down 10 games at the start of the week and 50 points in the projection. I was like, I don't really. And Ryan's like, well.
You were just like, cancel the podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
We're
Ryan
done.
took a look at my lineup and he's like, you could just gain a quick 8 games, like adding like, your favorite Kraken and whoever else. I'm like, there's no one out there. And then I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to give my opponent a freebie either, because then they can win this week and start making moves for the following week. Like I had to keep them honest. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll keep them honest. So I added on a Tuesday afternoon when everyone's gone, like Monday at 3 a.m., I took who was left, which was Chandler Stevenson, Matthew Olivier in Columbus, and Cole Perfetti, who have combined to give me nothing special, but about 30 cupful points. And Chandler Stevenson himself did quite well. And right now I'm up by 10 points in my matchup. I still could lose. It might not end well tonight, but in the moment, I'm in it and I'm happy. Like, at least I tried. Look, I tried. And here I am. I wouldn't be beating a lot of other teams in my division. Like, it's still like not a great overall score. But sometimes, you got to work hard for your luck,
Hey, look, Brian, I'm proud of you. I really hope it works out for you. Please keep us posted as we record. For anyone curious, I've like kind of the opposite. I'm like your opponent. I've been ahead all week, but the games played was like really tilted to my opponent for Saturday, Sunday. So I knew it was going to come. I was up by 50 at one point, and the projection was basically even. And I'm up by currently 15, it looks like. And yeah, we got a couple games to go. So I'm just hoping that my guys can cling. My opponent does have Cale Makar, so that's the scariest person that I'm hoping doesn't go off too badly. But let's get to obviously the thing people care most about is how our fantasy teams are doing, but probably the next highest is our takes on what's going on in the world of fantasy hockey. So let's dive into it. Of course, Keeping Karlsson, proudly presented by DobberHockey.com, the #1 website out there for fantasy hockey, and we use frozen tools all the time to prep the show and to do all of our research to get whatever modicum of success we can in our leagues. Yeah, Brian, I think we'll start this week with some outjuries. Let's start with some good news, have some fun, and I guess the biggest outjury is one that hasn't happened yet. We thought, as I was prepping the show, I actually thought it was going to happen today. Thatcher Demko, it was looking like he'd be ready to play for today's game against the Lightning. In the end, Demko was backing up Kevin Lankinen. Might be next Tuesday that Thatcher Demko finally gets into the net. So one final game as the undisputed starter for Lankinen today, and unfortunately didn't go too great. Wasn't terrible. 28 shots against, 28 saves on 31 shots against in a 4-2 loss against a very tough Tampa Bay Lightning team. So I guess nothing to be too embarrassed about. I guess now the big question is, like, what do you do with a Kevin Lankinen? I assume if you have Thatcher Demko, the answer is, like, play him when he plays his first game and hope for the best. I think, and I believe I said this on the short just I did with Shams on Thursday, I would still hold Lankinen. Just because, like, why not just wait and see what Demko has? Make sure he doesn't aggravate anything. Not wishing any ill will, of course. But, just see if he's still... this is serious. It seems like he's been rehabbing this thing forever. Make sure he's still got it. And then probably in a couple games, you drop Kevin Lankinen. But I'd be reticent. But maybe that's what makes me not have the killer edge like I did when I won the Couple Ultimate Championship, where I probably would have already dropped Lankinen like 2 weeks ago when I saw that Demko was just warming up.
Agree. Yeah, I mean, when someone, especially a goalie, comes back from injury, I think you don't necessarily want to move on so quick. One, because, hey, maybe they're going to, with Demko, give a game and then take a game off and then not give it any heavy runs, at least for the first couple weeks while he's seeing his first action of the year, right? He's been out of commission for a while now. And Lankin has proven that, I think he's proven that he's like an NHL goalie. Don't mean starter necessarily, but just like a goalie who deserves an NHL contract. And I think it's worth just taking a moment now to shout out Kevin Lankinen, who amongst 28 regular starters so far this season, he's 15th in 5-on-5 save percentage, so right in the middle of the pack, .914 at 5-on-5, ahead of Saros and Shesterkin, for what that's worth. Whether that says more about Lankinen or them, you can decide. But in Delta Fenwick save percentage, so performance above his expected number, given the quality and difficulty of his workload, Lankinen actually ranks near the bottom, 24th of 28 of the regular starters. He's one of 5 regular starters basically this season who are playing substantially below their expected save percentage, about 6 save points, and I'd call that substantial. The next worst goalie is playing less than 2 save points below his expected number. So a lot of the starters who are getting big workloads doing pretty well with it. Only 5 goalies. Lankinen's the best of them, who are playing substantially below what we should expect from them. Elon, do you want to guess the others?
So the best of the goalies who are doing the worst compared to the expected.
You lost
goalie. Me a little bit.
Okay, the worst goalies who are playing regular games, heavy workloads.
Okay. Man, you started this by being let's give some kudos to Kevin Lankinen,
yeah.
And then you end by saying he's one of the worst.
Well, you'll see when we name some of these guys, you're going to be, and it's hey, it's still a this is, most of these guys have played 15, 20 games. Okay, it's not a huge sample size.
Right.
But it's just interesting to see who's at the bottom here.
Okay, I feel like I almost don't want to participate because I don't want to be part of any Kevin Lankinen.
You don't like the premise. I understand.
He's great. He stepped in.
What I'm saying is he's not great.
September 1st. He comes in. The Canucks, what is their record now here? What is the Canucks record? They are 14-8-4 now after their loss today. Largely on the back of Lankinen, who not only has never been a starter before, but here he was a volume starter. Artur Shilovs, they couldn't even play him because it was guaranteed he was going to do badly for the most part. So I feel like, first of all, give Lankinen a break. Also, his save percentage is fine. So this above expected. I don't want to be one of these jocks here being all watch the games, because I don't watch the games. But I do think that stat is not always perfect. It's tricky to fully quantify the difficulty of the shots. So I don't know. From what I've been reading on Twitter, the vibes is that Lankinen has done pretty well, and the Canucks fans are happy with what they've seen from him. But okay, who are the worst goalies? This is my trivia question. The worst
high volume goalies who are doing the worst percentage compared to what we should expect them to do.
Okay. We have a guest in the chat here, Mrazek from Schwab Squad. That's a volume guy who probably...
No, Mrazek's actually right around Lankinen in 5-on-5 save percentage and better in expected number.
Okay. Merzlikins.
Good guess.
Merzlikins.
No.
Okay, I don't know. Shestyorkin, you mentioned him.
No.
Jussi Saros.
No.
Okay,
Are we
should I just
having
name every
fun yet?
goalie in the league? Is this fun? Markstrom? Markstrom.
Yeah,
Oh,
Markstrom.
I
Yeah.
got one. Should I keep going? Oh my God, listen. Okay, I think that's enough. I got
Okay,
one.
you want me to just tell you? Markstrom.
I mean, I could just go through every goalie in the league if you want.
Okay, no. Markstrom, Allmark, Bobrovsky,
Oh.
Georgiev.
These are,
It's
well, I mean,
it's
Georgiev is.
It's just like Markstrom and Allmark have changed teams, right? Bob, like we were just getting comfortable with, and now he's struggling. Georgiev, we were never quite comfortable with, but boy, has it been bad for him. But we don't really talk about like
Good game yesterday.
So Lankinen. So I'm basically saying this to contextualize where he is in the like his play versus expected, and saying, well, like Allmark and Markstrom, both goalies who were richly rewarded for their play so far in their careers, also struggling. Actually, the other thread with all these goalies is huge contracts, right? Allmark, Bob, Georgiev, and Markstrom. I mean, huge, maybe not as huge for Georgiev and Markstrom, but like substantial, big commitments. Anyway, good showing from Lankinen. Established himself as an NHLer. If you have survived with Lankinen on your bench up till this point, you got to be happy. You got to be happy and hope he starts being a volume goalie before too much more time passes.
Oh, you mean Demko in your
Yeah.
IR?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We'll see. We'll see how Demko does. And I'm curious to see what's next in the Lankinen chapter of his career, whether it's like getting a lot more starts for the Canucks or maybe getting a new contract next year. Like you said, I think he's proven that he's worthy of being one of the goalies that teams go after during UFA frenzy every summer. Okay, so I guess since we're on Vancouver, kind of a bummer today. Like all their big names didn't really do anything. I was gonna like just laud some of their star players. Elias Pettersson, after a few big games, got super close to point per game. He was at 24 points in 25 games. No points today. So now it's 24 and 26. So he'll keep on, pushing, just trying to get there. I'm Elias Pettersson. I should be a point per game player. I have a feeling he'll get there before long. Jake DeBrusk continues to score like 1 or 2 goals every game. Again, like quiet today against Tampa, but before that he had a 4-game goal streak where one of them was a hat trick against Detroit. The other 3 just a measly goal. A lot of shots. DeBrusk crushing it. Also Quinn Hughes. I mean, I just feel like there's not enough you can say about Quinn Hughes and how incredible of a season he's having. Even with the he did have a goal today. He's the only one who even today did something. Scored a goal, bringing him now to 13 points in his last 7 games, 32 points in 26 games on the season. What does that mean? That means he's pacing Quinn Hughes for over 100 points. Last year, he broke out for 92. This year, making last year look like just a warm-up. And also, by the way, Quinn Hughes averaging 3.2 shots per game now on the season. Like one of these defensemen who you want to get even just because of the shot. He's the new Jacob Chychrun. Where did this come from? Anyway, he's great. A lot of Canucks are great, but they lost today. So, Brian, I don't know if you want to say anything about any of these superstar Canucks players.
Yeah, I'll say a little something about a few of them. First off,
you're going to be like Quinn Hughes. If you look at his expected number of goals that he should have, he's actually not doing that well.
You're so mad at what expected has done to your baby boy, Kevin Lankinen. No, Elias Pettersson, I was just looking at his numbers on the season. They looked bad to start the year. Things are kind of getting normal again, not all the way. And I'm looking at the full set, right? I'm looking to see, okay, has he played well enough now to offset the poorness of his initial play? And the answer is not quite. Pettersson still only has 2 power play points in his last 9 games and just 7 power play points on the year. Pettersson also has 0 or 1 shots on goal in 7 of his last 9 games. So Pettersson's on, maybe I am doing this. Pettersson's on a nice run, but I think that there's some variance helping him out here and on ice shooting percentage and points participation. I'm not going to say that he definitely can't keep it up. I'm just going to say that normally when we'd see this from Pettersson, we'd be like, yeah, he's back. And I'm just not sure he is yet. So I think I'll leave it at that for now. And I guess that's sort of a signal to be like, okay, if Pettersson's doing well and you're not fully believing yourself, then maybe it's time to see what you might be able to get back for him in a trade. If this is a good sell high. Elon,
Here we go. And
Elon, do you think it's a buy high?
then you're going to be like, and of course, if Pedersen is overperforming, that means probably Jake DeBrusk is overperforming, so sell him as well. Actually, all the Canucks are really terrible, and they're probably going to get the first overall pick in the next draft. So better luck next year, Canucks
Listen,
fans.
I would never say that to my Canucks fan friends. Okay, never. I thank you all for listening. I remember we have a Quinn Hughes sensitivity somewhere in our listener base if they are still indeed listening. But Jake DeBrusk, geez man, 4-game goal scoring streak was snapped today against Tampa, including today. DeBrusk has 9 goals in his last 8 games. And yes, Elon, those have come on 27 shots, although 5 of them came on the power play. That's huge. And I wonder if this means that DeBrusk gets to hold the top power play again when JT Miller is back in the lineup. Like why, DeBrusk was briefly booted from the top unit, which is when he was booted from my roster. And look at him now. Quinn Hughes, tasty stuff. Holy cow, 32 points in 26 games, 101-point pace. The next best defenseman in point scoring on Vancouver, Philip Hronek with 23 fewer points than Quinn Hughes, 9 points in 21 games. He's on a 35-point pace. He'd essentially need to play 3 seasons at this pace to get as many points as Quinn Hughes is on pace to get this year. No other Vancouver defenseman is pacing above 30 points. I mean, Vancouver's been scoring a whole lot lately. They have 4 or more goals in 5 of their last 7 games heading into today, so now it's 5 of 8 because they only scored a couple today. 12% shooting for the Canucks in this span, 7 for 22 on the power play. So both those numbers are a touch high, and I expect them to come down. So these hot streaks that we're seeing from Pedersen, DeBrusk, and to some extent Quinn Hughes, although I'm still definitely a believer in Quinn Hughes, more so than DeBrusk and Peterson. Not to say I don't believe in them either, but I expect things to taper off a little bit. But if there's one Canuck that I know I can really trust right now, it is definitely Quinn Hughes.
Right. Okay. And I'm just kidding around. I get what you're saying, and yeah, maybe Pedersen won't be able to keep up this scorching run. We've seen definitely the other side of him, and obviously from DeBrusk as well. Let's go to our next outjury here. Mark Stone has returned for the Vegas Golden Knights. He went right to the top line, of course, with Eichel and Barbashev. I guess I shouldn't say of course. He didn't start the season with Eichel, but yeah, he was there. And then also Mark Stone played on the top power play with Eichel, Hurdle, Victor Olofsson, who we'll get to shortly, and Shea Theodore. Nice tidy return for Mark Stone. Got himself an assist, couple shots. It was a power play assist against Dallas on Friday. Vegas hasn't played since. It was a 3-2 win. That brings Stone to 22 points in 14 games. So holy moly, when you have him, he's amazing. It's just a matter of how long he will grace his fantasy managers with his presence before he goes back to the IR. But obviously there's not too much we can say about Mark Stone that people don't already know. But yeah, the big news is that Victor Olofsson also returned from his injury, and in the first game back, he wasn't on the top power play. But then when Mark Stone came back, there was a bit of a shuffle, and yeah, Olofsson's there, which means Dorofeyev is not there. So first of all, let's just talk about both of them, right? Victor Olofsson has played 3 games now, 2 of them nothing, and 1 of them 2 assists. Actually, no, 4 games now. Yeah, 4 games now for Olofsson since returning. And yeah, so far just that 1 good game. So on one hand, it looks like nothing special. On the other hand, I wonder if now's still a good time to get him because he's on the top power play. So that's the question. You look at Pavel Dorofeyev, who was great for a long time in a similar spot, playing with Hurdle, playing with playing on the top power play. Dorofeyev has really slowed down. I know Shams mentioned that he's dropped him in his league where, he was enjoying him for a lot of the season. No points in the last 4 games for Dorofeyev. So I think it's probably pretty clear that if you don't have him on the top power play, it's time to say goodbye. Not that Dorofeyev is going to do nothing. I look at him kind of like an Alex Laferriere. He's going to still score his goals once in a while. He's still going to do stuff, but I don't know if he's someone I'm super excited to hold when he's not in a primo deployment situation. What do you think about Dorofeyev? And then also Victor Olofsson, who, by the way, Vegas doesn't play until next Thursday. It's a Thursday, Saturday, Sunday schedule for Vegas, with Thursday and Saturday being super busy. So if you add Olofsson, you're kind of only adding him to get his Sunday game next week. But hey, maybe top power play with Stone and Eichel's worth it.
Yeah, so for Olofsson, I think he's someone that I don't think you have to hold until Thursday, but you can. I think it could be worth your while. But if things are tight, if I had Olofsson already on my roster, like in the Cupful, Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, kkupfl.com. I would not want to burn a move dropping Olofsson and then trying to pick him back up on Thursday. Like I would just sit tight. I think in a looser league where you have more moves available, I might try and wait if it's a deep enough place to add Olofsson, just because I'm not 100% sure he'll be worth it even when he does play. But I think there's a decent opportunity for him here. He's done stuff from here before. As for Dorofeyev, I don't think he's someone that is worth holding on to beyond, well, yesterday and before that. That is to say, I think his time is up now that Olofsson's back, and we actually already did talk about this last week on the show. So I think you can move on from Dorofeyev, and if you can really thread the needle on the timing with Olofsson, add him for Thursday. If you feel like you can't, he might be somebody worth holding on to while he's got some great deployment in Vegas.
Yeah, we'll see if the shots get going a little bit. Obviously, that would be nice. I should mention a couple other players on Vegas. If you look at the blue line, a couple super cold top pairing defensemen in Alex Pietrangelo and Noah Hannafin. Pietrangelo is now pointless in 5 games. Hannafin pointless in 6 games. I'm sure their managers are starting to get that itchy finger of wondering if I should just drop these guys. They still play big minutes. They're on a decent team, but it has been Shea Theodore on the top power play. If you had Pietrangelo or Hannafin in the league like the Cupful, a 14-team league, would you be holding on, or would you be also starting to think it's time to move on?
Yeah, I think I'm ready to move on from Hannafin. He really hasn't done anything for a while. He's pointed in back-to-back games 3 times this season, but that basically sums up Hannafin's whole production. Also, not even getting a sniff of the top power play and low peripherals too. I'm also gonna go. So I think Hannafin's a snoozer. I think Alex Pietrangelo is also a snoozer on that blue line. He's still on a 49-point pace, Pietrangelo, this season, despite doing nothing for the last 5 games, which on one hand seems pretty great. But then you look into Pietrangelo's game log and you see 60% of his production came in a 6-day span where he had 9 points in 4 games. And aside from that, hasn't done a whole lot of anything. His peripherals aren't really all that worth it. I think you're snoozing on Pietrangelo too, because he also is not getting a whiff of the top power play. Speaking of the top power play, Shea freaking Theodore is at a 67-point pace, 3 goals, 16 assists for 19 points in 22 games. Theodore is on track for his 4th 60-plus point pace season in the last 5. He's only gone more than 2 games once this year without getting a point. I could have phrased that better, but hopefully you got the gist. What more could you want, really, from a defenseman? Shea Theodore also has 9 power play points in 27 games, 71% share of the power play time. Looks good on him and sustainable. We thought there might be these threats from Hannafin and Pietrangelo on the top unit this year. Not seeing any of that come to fruition. So way to go, Shea Theodore, and his success to me means that Hannafin and Pietrangelo are likely snoozers on your rosters.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. Definitely Theodore has been really great. Probably some tidy work from Vegas to extend him and not wait until free agency where maybe he could have made a bit more money. They locked him in for a $7.4 million contract. That's nothing compared to what Shesterkin just got. I guess I shouldn't compare those two. Hannafin, I agree 100%. Pietrangelo, it would be tough for me to drop Alex Pietrangelo. You're still getting 3-4 blocks a lot of games. I don't know. He played 27 minutes in the last game. It would be hard for me to drop Pietrangelo in a deeper league. In a shallower league, definitely, but in a league like the Cupful, where I currently have Jared Spurgeon, I don't know. I feel like if I'm holding Spurgeon, I feel like he's similar. But those Spurgeon on the top power play right now for what's in Minnesota.
Yeah, and there is some but I've also, said Jared Spurgeon doesn't inspire a whole lot of long-term rosterable confidence in me either. So maybe you're right that these guys are both similar in that there's a chance they could help you, but are they going to help you often enough and to a great enough extent to justify not trying to find someone else? And I guess it does depend on your defense situation, right? If Pietrangelo is your second best defenseman and it's a pretty deep league, you'll hang on to those 3 or 4 blocks, right? A game that you're hoping for.
I feel like maybe Pietrangelo is last year's Brent Burns. He was just fine, wasn't great. He ended up with 43 points, and it was but it also means that maybe next year, if Petrangelo continues and he becomes now this year's Brent Burns next year, then all of a sudden you'll be seeing him in free agency a lot. It's been weird, by the way, seeing Brent Burns in free agency in my division, like added and dropped a bunch of times. Decent streamer, I guess, if that. I still remember a time when Brent Burns was like considered a potential like top overall pick in fantasy just because of all the shots and hits and blocks and like from a defenseman spot. But those days are long over, and maybe Petrangelo still has a bit more. So I guess we'll see. But you're saying time to move on. Why don't we move on to our next team here? Let's go to the Montreal Canadiens, who had a nice little outjury, and Patrick Laine. Really happy to see this. I was bummed for Laine when he didn't even get to start the season, had that early injury. I was hoping that he'd get back and wouldn't have his confidence shot now in his third team here. And yeah, definitely doesn't seem like Laine is struggling at all, considering his first game back scored a power play goal, second game back another power play goal, third game back no, he didn't have a third power play goal, but he did take 4 shots, which isn't too bad. The Habs now, all of a sudden, you get Patrick Laine back, now you have a decent looking top 6, right? In the last game against Washington, they went Suzuki, Caulfield, and Newhook, and then Slavkovsky, Laine, and Cole Kirby Doc, which, okay, some of these guys are definitely not blowing you away, but it does seem like you have a couple good players on each line. Yeah, so I'd be curious to get your take, right, on just what to expect from Patrick Laine moving forward. And I guess on the flip side, I'll just throw at you, what about Juraj Slavkovsky? Because I'm excited about Laine, but at the same time, I'm pretty low on Slavkovsky at the moment, who's pointless in 4 games. He's on the same line as Patrick Laine, and he's still on the top power play. So I feel like maybe, as I say it, like doesn't even make sense. Shouldn't we expect them to kind of go in the same direction? So are you of the mind that like they will go in the same direction, or is like one going to be good and the other bad? Yeah. So Patrick Laine, I guess I'd love to know what upside you think there is there. And then Slavkovsky, how close to snoozer territory are we with this guy who hasn't done anything for a while?
Yeah. Well, let me start off with Laine, who I think you actually really said it all, right? In the one game he hasn't scored, he still took 4 shots. He's playing 17 minutes a night. Both of Laine's goals have come on the power play, which is nice to see. And as you mentioned, Laine gives the Habs like a legit second line when there wasn't one before. So this is good news for anyone who's not Suzuki or Cole Caulfield, I think, because Laine should be someone who can help make a complete scoring line, which that piece was missing, especially with Slavkovsky having been so quiet lately. So Laine provides hope for him. For Slavkovsky, though, I don't know. We were really high on him coming into the season. But the question I'm asking myself these days is, at what point are we going to be ready to call him a snoozer too? His 5-on-5 scoring is decent per 60 minutes, but Slavkovsky is averaging less time on ice versus last season, believe it or not. 90 seconds less. He's only shooting 5%, which should improve, but I don't see a ton of room for Slavkovsky to improve beyond that yet, which we thought we might, given sort of the step forward we were seeing him take during the second half of last season. Slavkovsky, despite a whole lot of power play time, only has 5 power play points through 24 games. Doesn't seem terribly involved in the power play, based on his points participation, which I'm not sure we can expect a whole lot better from. He's not taking a whole lot of shots. And again, so what is it going to take for us to call Slavkovsky a snoozer? The thing is that I think he's a snoozer right now, if I'm being honest, but I also think he's going to wake up and maybe go off like Jake DeBrusk, and maybe in a way that's more sustainable than what DeBrusk is doing right now. But with 3 points in Slav's last 11 games, and he's gone 15 games without taking a third shot on goal, I don't know how long you wait. I mean, he hits in the meantime, so if those are valuable for you, that makes it a little easier. But I'm not sure how much longer you want to hold on to Slavkovsky waiting. If you're having a hard time hanging in your league standings. Top line, Newhook, that's who's in the spot that we'd like to see Slavkovsky. He's boring in the meantime, so I don't know if that's good or bad. I actually saw someone talking about like a Slavkovsky for William Eklund deal, and I was like, I think I'd take Eklund between the two of those at this point, because Eklund's someone I want to roster right now, even though he's sort of quieting down too. Slavkovsky, he's not. I don't know. Do you think am I premature here, Elon? Do you want to have more patience than I do for Juraj Slavkovsky?
It's tricky because at any moment, Martin St. Louis can just change the lines and put Slavkovsky with with Caulfield and Suzuki, and he can go off just like he did in the second half of last year. And I feel like that's kind of hard for us to predict what the Habs are going to do. I think I agree with you that he's not that exciting on the second line. We'll see if like Patrick Laine and Slavkovsky will, develop some chemistry along with Kirby Doc, three very tall people, by the way. It's cool seeing them on the ice together, especially compared to the top line right now. But yeah, I don't know if I would like if I had look. I have Owen Tippett, and I haven't dropped him yet. He actually did give me a 2-goal game earlier this week, which was very nice of him. I still wish he was on the top power play, but I feel like they're kind of similar. Where it was just like even when cold, like it's just I spent too much draft capital. Even me, who I try to be a bit cutthroat. I don't know if I would drop Slavkovsky, but I would be frustrated. But if he was dropped in my division, I think I would add him. So ask me again in a week. I feel like I want to give him like a little bit more time, especially with the new line mate here, and he's still on the top power play. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. But I definitely wouldn't begrudge anyone deciding to move on. Just definitely be ready to have him on your watch list and ready to pounce on if the lines change or if he starts doing something.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. I think put him on watch, like on your roster, give it a week, and then wait and see. Now that there is this new lineup dynamic with Patrick Laine.
Yeah. By the way, Suzuki and Caulfield both just scorching right now. Caulfield 9 points in his last 7. Suzuki 9 points in his last 6. Caulfield taking a ton of shots. 5 shots in the last game. 6 in the game before. It was he had a golden assist. Caulfield versus Washington. So those guys are definitely your Habs that you can set your watch to. And one more player actually that you can set your watch to at Montreal lately is Lane Hutson over on defense, who has held his spot on the top power play. It looks like they've been kind of switching things around. At some point, they even had Matheson and Hudson together. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Hudson gets his points. He has an assist in 6 straight games, 2 of them on the power play, 4 of them not on the power play. Look at Lane Hutson go. Now up to 17 points in 27 games on the season. That's a 52-point pace. It was a lot lower a couple weeks ago, but that's what a 6-game point streak is going to do for you. I don't know if it's going to last. I don't even know if it's worth like diving too deep into the underlying numbers just because he's 20 years old, almost 21. And clearly, I'd imagine improving day by day as he's getting more acquainted with being an NHL defenseman. So I'm excited. Like if he's somehow still out there for you, I would definitely jump on. I definitely also think there's a decent chance this can totally disappear, just like he did for a lot of the season. But I would want to take the shot. For sure. I would make room for Lane Hutson ahead of, maybe Pietrangelo. I mean, it's tough because Pietrangelo gives you the peripherals, but that would be a tough one for me. If I had Pietrangelo and Lane Hutson was in free agency, I think I might be pretty tempted to make that swap.
Sorry, can you say that again? If you had Hudson and you change him for Pietrangelo?
If I had Pietrangelo, I would consider swapping for Hudson.
Yeah, okay. I would do the same, Elon, just because I'm not sure either guy is going to be long for your roster, but Hudson's hot right now. He's been on the top power play for 7 games, 2 power play points in that time. Not a ton of peripherals, but enough, like not Brock Faber level low peripherals. There's still hope that Hudson might be able to help you, even if he doesn't get like that power play assist. And I'm not going to go too deep into it, Elon, except to say that, 6-game point streak, top power play. I'm in. I'm interested, especially because that top power play has a new weapon now, again, in Patrick Laine. I think I'm hoping Laine is good enough to have this ripple effect impact through the Habs lineup and help out a couple other guys too.
All right, Brian, we still have a lot of outjuries still to get to, let alone injuries. Hot and cold streaks. So we'll be back in just a sec with more outjuries. Let's go to Colorado next. We'll talk to you in a sec. Welcome back to Keeping Karlsson. Brian, we are ready to dive into our next outjury. Ross Colton is back for the Colorado Avalanche. Look at this. This team finally has not a fully healthy roster. I guess Drouin is still out. Landeskog, he's still out, but still, you can't complain if you're an Avs fan right now, especially with what Ross Colton has done. It's only been a couple games, so he didn't do anything versus Detroit, but had 3 shots. Then he did score today against New Jersey. Colton has been lining up with Casey Middlestat and Valeri Nichushkin on the second line, leaving Lehkonen to play with Rantanen and McKinnon on the top line. Colton has not cracked the top power play as of yet. He was doing so well there, But for now, it's McKinnon and Nichushkin and Rantanen, Lehkonen, and of course Kale McCarr. We'll see. We'll see. We predicted that Casey Middlestat would lose his spot soon, and he did. I don't think Nichushkin is giving it up. I wonder if Lekkonen's spot. I'm telling you my opinion. I'm a big Nichushkin booster, who, by the way, another point today. He's pointing almost every game he plays, as expected by myself. Lekkonen's spot, I wonder if it could be potentially up for grabs at some point if things go cold, but they might just not. Lehkonen has a goal today in this game against New Jersey, not on the power play, even strength, which means Ross Colton was probably on the ice, or I don't know. Actually, it's Lehkonen assisted by Middlestat, even though I was saying that Lehkonen was on the top line. So we'll have to figure out what happened there at some future time. What do you think, Brian? Ross Colton. Let's say he was dropped. It was a league that doesn't have IR spots or whatever. He definitely was rostered in most leagues at the time that he was injured because of the crazy hot streak he was on. But now that he's back, not on the top power play, not even playing with McKinnon or Rantanen, but he is playing with Nichushkin, like I said. Would he be someone you'd be excited to have back, or do you think this is going to be the kind of thing where Ross Colton will go back to being what he was, when we were drafting, where no one had Ross Colton anywhere on their radars?
Well, I mean, Ross Colton has at least jumped from being a bottom six player to a top six player in my books. And I think he could end up on the top line at any moment. We've seen Lehkonen get bumped around and jostled around the depth chart before. So I'm not going to give up on Ross Colton just because he's on the second line with Nichushkin and Middlestat, who, by the way, have both been pretty productive tonight with a goal from Ross Colton, which, Elon, I think you probably mentioned. So you
were there.
Yeah, if you have Ross Colton on your roster, I don't think I'm dropping him just because I don't love, he's not walking into the deployment I wish he had. I'm still going to be looking. He had 3 shots in his first game back. I like 3 shots from Ross Colton. That's been the floor for Ross Colton this season. So far tonight, he's got 2. We'll see if he can add at least 1 more. And his ice time's still pretty low, coming back from injury. So no, Elon, I'm saying not to hold on to Ross Colton. And to be honest, I don't see him as that different from Slavkovsky. And the difference is that Colton hits and shoots, whereas Slavkovsky just hits. I know the power play deployment is different, but I'm waiting to see what'll happen. But I don't think they're that different.
Interesting. Yeah. So we'll get some more data. Maybe some lines will also shift around again as Colton, reestablishes himself back into the lineup. But yeah, nice to see him go back into the top 6 for sure. And he'd be someone I would be interested in having on my team. If I had him, I definitely wouldn't be rushing to drop him. I would wait until he goes cold or gets bumped from the top 6 or something. Let's look at what's going on in net. Some fun adventures this week for the Avalanche. It started on a Monday game in Buffalo where Georgiev started the game, let in 4 goals on 8 shots, got pulled, and then Wedgwood came in, and Colorado came back and won the game. And Scott Wedgwood, newly acquired, 22 saves. Pretty great game for him. Welcome to Colorado. Then Wedgwood was rewarded with the next game against Carolina. Not as good. 4 goals against on 34 shots. Took the L against the Hurricanes. Then Georgiev comes back. I feel like a very important game for him and his fantasy managers. And he did really well on Saturday against Detroit. It was against Detroit, to be fair, but only 1 goal against on 30 shots. So a very nice, dominant win for Alexander Georgiev. And now today, Scott Wedgwood is playing against New Jersey, and he's doing well. It's only 12 shots against I'm seeing so far. Maybe I haven't updated. 15 shots against now. We're in the 3rd period. Where's New Jersey doing? Take some shots. You're gonna say you're against Scott Wedgwood here. You might be able to get something in. But anyway, here we are. I don't know what's going on. I still my gut is that Georgiev is still the starter and Wedgwood is the backup, and that's the plan. And there might be some weird aberrations along the way, but for the most part, there's not that much that has changed. But I am curious to get your take on if anything's changed for you. Are we closer to a 50-50? Is one guy more or less appealing to have on your roster at this point? Colorado's just so good. You want their goalie, but who's going to play? I don't know.
My very bold prediction is that both Georgiev and Wedgwood will not be good. That's as far as I'm willing to go. I think I'm more comfortable saying they'll both be play poorly or inconsistently than I am trying to pick one who is going to play better. If I had to guess, and I think I've been pretty upfront about this, Georgiev will play more than Wedgwood because he will be less bad. But that's my frame for it. Georgiev will be less bad than Wedgwood.
Okay. I mean, I think that probably if I were to like really make a statement, I I don't think he'll be that bad. Like I think that Georgiev will like be a top 15 total points goalie in the cupful for the rest of the season, like starting from here to the end. So Trev, you can put that down and see. Like Brian, it sounds like what you're saying is almost like forget it, just drop either of them if you have them. I mean, so drop Georgiev basically. I don't think I would go that far, but it is interesting. And now another great game today so far. No jinx on Wedgwood. Could go.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Colorado I think, doesn't care, right?
I'm not gonna say drop Georgiev, but if he's not getting volume, I don't want him. Even if he, depending on the format of your league. But if you need rate stats, I don't want Georgiev. Like really, only if wins make it worth it, then you want Georgiev. If he's not starting at least 2 of every 3.
By the way, Owen Tippett. I guess I put his name out into the universe, and he rewarded me with a goal, which I think is probably going to clinch my matchup. So appreciate you, Owen Tippett. I take everything back. You're fantastic. Who was I comparing him to and saying that I don't? Oh, maybe like a Slavkovsky. We're just comparing everyone to Slavkovsky today. Brian, make that the episode title. If you could come up with a song, a song from the '90s that also you can incorporate with Tippett and Slavkovsky, or Slavkovsky being similar to people. But okay, so since I'm bringing up Owen Tippett, we can go to our next team here. Let's go to Philly, who has an outjury. Sam Ersson is back, and he's actually playing today. Can't give you a full update because we're in the middle of a game here against Utah. It's Sunday night at 9 p.m. We did our best to wait. But yeah, it's almost done 2 periods. The score is 2-2. So Ersson's led in 2 goals on 20 shots. Not great, like not amazing, but not terrible by any means. I think I saw some like quotes from Tortorella being like Ersson's our starter, which is interesting because, you know, Fedotov and Kosalov are there. And I don't know if they're going to send someone to the minors or what they're going to do. It's like I would think like I wouldn't expect for fantasy that Ersson's going to play so much when they have 2 other goalies. Maybe they'll send Kosalov down, but though he's been kind of like okay recently. I guess you can let me know about the saves above expectation. So yeah, any takes? Is it a Colorado situation in your mind where you're not really that into either, or I guess any 3 of the goalies, or is there a goalie that you're interested in here of this trio?
All the goalies have been bad in Philadelphia. Kolosov, 899, has been the best of the bunch in terms of 5-on-5 save percentage, followed by Ersson with an 892 and Fedotov with an 890. Kolosov has also been the best against expected, playing just 2 save points beneath his expected number, you know, compared to Kevin Lankinen's 6 save points beneath expected. Fedotov playing 10 points behind expected, and Ersson playing 15 save points behind expected. So, like, a lot of really bad goaltending here, but Kolosov is, like, on the brink of being a 900 goaltender and is nearly playing to his expected number. So, he's the guy so far. By the way, he has great hair. 3rd round pick in 2021, 78th overall. Age 23 season for the Belarusian. This is his first full pro year in North America. He played 2 games in the AHL last year, and with Minsk Dynamo of the KHL, he had a 909 save percentage for the last 2 years with a record under 500. So I don't really know what to make of that, but Kolosov so far, the only semi-competent goalie who's played in the crease for Philly. Yeah, Fedotov. By the way, yeah. Well, you know,
I think Sam Ersson, you got to give him more time. Like, I think he's more than competent.
Well, he's not shown himself to be so far. He had a great half season last year before the wheels fell off. Fedotov, by the way, like Kolosov was drafted in 2021. He and Fedotov both in their first North American season. But Fedotov was drafted 6 years earlier, and 4 rounds later, 7th round, 188th overall, out of Finland. Fedotov just turned 28 years old. He's got a long. Well, I'm not. I was gonna say he has a long neck. I commented on Kolosov's hair, so like I was like, what does Fedotov look like? Guy like a draft vibes. Tall. Yeah.
He's 6'7", Brian. I don't know if you know. I can fill in some of this background because I know you're just
like
kind of
a third of that seems to be in his. No, that's not nice of me. I'm not gonna. He won a championship with CSKA Moscow in 21-22. But aside from that, he's also like, I don't see huge pedigree. Maybe I'm spoiled by like Shesterkin's KHL play and being like, none of these guys look like they've done anything near what he did in the KHL. Anyway, yeah.
It's also Philly, just Philly. Like Philly goalies have trouble. It's hard.
Philly goalies have trouble. That's something that's been true for like the better part of my lifetime. But Michkov doing great. 11 power play points in 25 games. Philadelphia has 14 power play goals this season. Michkov has 11 power play points. So he is basically the power play. And coming into tonight's game, Michkov had 3 goals on his last 6 shots. And Elon is already going to bring this up, just like Owen Tippett. Owen Tippett coming into today had 3 goals on his last 6 shots. And Owen Tippett, like you said, with a goal tonight, assisted
yeah.
by Matvei Michkov and Nick Seeler, but who cares?
Yeah, I was going to say, what a week for Matvei Michkov. Before today, he had 2 goals against Boston, 3 assists versus Florida. I think that he didn't like that some people were starting to talk about Celebrini as like inching his way into that Calder race with an incredible stretch after coming back from injury. And Michkov was like, no, it's still me. So that's going to be a fun race for the rest of the year. I will say for Kolosov, I think I was calling Koslov before, so I apologize for that. Kind of similar, just flipped a couple letters. I apologize. But Kolosov, yeah, he also had that whole drama, Brian, I don't know if you know, last year, where he the reason why he only played 2 games in the AHL is because like he left and went back to Russia because he wasn't happy. And then there was all this stuff about like no one talked to him or something. There's a whole thing. And then people thought he was for sure not going to ever come back, but then he did come back. And look at him. We'll see how that shakes out. My guess is Ersson is going to get the majority of the games. Let's see how the rest of today's game shakes out. Oh, he just let in a goal. I jinxed him. It's 3-2 now. He sucks. You're right.
I mean, Kolosov seems like the easiest one to like say, just go wait a little while, right? He's the youngest. He's played the least in the NHL. Like, he's the easiest one to just, move off to the side while you let Ersson and Fedotov play and see what they can do. But if I had to pick a goalie right now of the 3 of them that I would put in for the next Philadelphia game, it would be Kolosov, but that might change like 2 games later.
Right. All right, so a couple more outjuries here from goalies I can throw at you. Kochikov is back for Colorado. I think we mentioned last week that it was going to happen, so he officially came back, and Spencer Martin did so poorly in Kochikov's absence that Spencer Martin was sent to the minors, and Carolina called up Dustin Tokarski, the journeyman, and we'll see if Tokarski gets into the net at some point. I guess he will at some point. They can't just play Kochikov forever. Yesterday, Pyotr Kochikov lost to the Islanders, letting 4 goals on 25 shots, so not a great game. I mean, to be fair, the guy came back from injury and was just thrust into the net to play every game. But yeah, 3 not amazing games, all sub 900 save percentage, because of course Carolina is one of these teams that doesn't let in a lot of shots. You let in 3 goals, you're almost like very unlikely to have above 900 save percentage. So it hasn't been great for him, and his managers were probably excited to get him back. We'll see. Dustin Tokarski, I don't expect things to be much different, but can't be any worse than what Spencer Martin did. So that's the net over in Carolina. On the plus side, Shane Gostisbehere, I just saw a stat. He leads defensemen in power play points this year. Jeez, he's doing really well. Shane Gostisbehere, what a guy. Remember when Philly like paid to get rid of him because they just were so sick of him?
No, when they wouldn't.
And now who's Philly running on their top power play? Emile Andre or whoever?
Yeah, and they wouldn't use Gostisbehere, even though 2 of his first 3 seasons he had been incredible, and he looked elite on the power play, and then they decided they didn't want to give him the opportunity to keep doing that like ever again. But Gostisbehere has been great. 24 points in 27 games this year, 73-point pace. He's got 17 power play points in those 24 games. And Elon, I did double check that stat. I thought maybe you meant in Carolina. Gostisbehere has the most power. No, in the league for defensemen. That's incredible.
Well, yeah, that wouldn't be that impressive. He's beating out Brent Burns.
Yeah. The theory heading into the season on Gostisbehere was that, like, even if on the top power play, it wouldn't be enough to make him rosterable. But, like, this is crazy. I mean, we're seeing that rookie and third-year Gostisbehere kind of unlocked here, at least in the bottom line numbers. The things around it, not quite as much, because we'd like to see more ice time and we'd like to see some more shots, which we're not seeing, which is why Gostisbehere as a defenseman, 4.5 fantasy points per game in the cupful. It's not like as awesome as you'd think you'd see from a defenseman who's on a 73-point pace. So it's still kind of true that Gostisbehere really, really is relying on these power play points to be rosterable in fantasy. Like he does stink at 5-on-5. He's not playing many minutes there. On the power play, he himself is shooting 27%. Carolina is shooting 22% with him on the ice. Even on the power play, that's kind of high. I don't know. I end this by saying I don't think he's going to keep this up. I don't know exactly what you could pull back. I think you could still hope that he'll be on a 60-point pace, but the thing is that just with low shots and 5-on-5 time and everything else, it's still, to me, just a touch dicier than I'd like it to be about whether Gostisbehere will be like really worth your while the rest of the season. So I think it might be good to like dangle and see what you like, see what interest is like. I'm not saying like give up, like get out from him, get away from him while you can, but I think it's worth seeing if you might find someone who will continue to be more dependable and more like in more ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like there is a ceiling on what you can expect from Gostisbehere just because he doesn't get like the big even strength minutes. At the same time, like with this breakout by Nichas, like I just feel like this is a really good power play to be on, and he's very talented at being on a power play. So it's hard to expect like too many games in a row of him not having a point or even two. So that would be the reason to just, and also like you said, like sometimes you just have to have a player and just enjoy it, have it. Like, what are you even going to trade Shane Gostisbehere for? But if you can get like someone really amazing, like let's say who's like a really great defenseman who's cold. Like, oh, I don't know. Like, well, okay. I got a question for you, Brian. I was going to bring him up a little later. Charlie McAvoy, cold once again. Are we at a point now where if you're the Gostisbehere manager and you're offered McAvoy, you're like, get that garbage out of my face? Like, is that just like a total lowball offer at this point? Even though going into the year,
I would rather
like 20 rounds higher. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on the same page. So we're still, yeah. Okay. By the way, I'll mention that Andrei Svechnikov, huge week, had a goal and 3 assists versus Colorado, and then 2 goals against the Islanders. This is the kind of thing that keeps me every year, like just really believing in Andrei Svechnikov and being like, this is the year he's going to break out. Because I feel like I just kind of forget about like the 4-game pointless streak that he had before, and I just like remember the big games. And when he has a big game, like this game, 2 goals against the Islanders, 7 shots, 2 hits. Both of the goals were power play goals, by the way. Only 24. I still believe that there's like a 90, 100-point season from Svechnikov coming. I don't know when.
Yeah, but just a matter of when.
Well, maybe not. Maybe that's like hard.
Last week, I said like I thought I saw some room for him to like really bust out and do even better than he's already doing. And I said you could try and trade like Timo Meier for him. I went ahead and took my own advice. I did that in a home league. And his last game on the other guy's roster, he was amazing. And his first game on my roster, he's amazing. So we'll see where things go from here. But I'm pretty happy to have Andrei Svechnikov. But I think whatever window there might have been to kind of buy low-ish on him, that's probably closed. If you can buy high, though, I would.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, yeah, Timo Meier did score a goal a couple games ago. So far, nothing against Colorado, though he's taking some shots lately. But yeah, I would definitely take Svechnikov over Meier. So I think that's a really good deal for you. Another quick outro we can get to is Nikita Kucherov came back today for Tampa. Did not miss a beat. 1 goal, 2 assists. He's incredible. Braden Point had a 4-point game. Jake Gensel did his thing where like, yeah, he scored. I'm happy. Like, look, I have Jake Gensel. I'm happy. Braden Point 4 points, Kucherov 3 points. I remember when I drafted, I feel like I'm a broken record to say this every week. You don't even have to respond to this. When I drafted him, I thought that he'd be kind of like really keeping up with those guys. Like, but he's clearly like the next tier down behind Kucherov, Point. Brandon Hagel, pointless, which is surprising considering the crazy season he's had.
Shocking.
A 4-goal game. Yeah. Let's go to the next. I still have more outros for you, Brian. Darcy Kemper is back for LA, and he had a good game yesterday. David Riddick, as I believe we discussed last week, has been good for a while. So that'll be interesting. I have here, Brian. I'm going to do whatever you say right now, okay? On Game Day Tweets, I think I've mentioned, we have our goalie guesses. When you go to GameDayTweets.com, there hasn't been a tweet. Then our very intense and complicated algorithm comes up with a guess. And it basically comes down to we have for each team just said like who's the starter, who's the backup, and if the goalies are alternating. So right now I have it for LA set as Riddick is the starter and Kemper is the backup, but it doesn't matter because I have them as alternating. Would you keep it that way? Should I be guessing that they're going to alternate, or should I just put Kemper back to being the starter, non-alternating?
I think I would keep them alternating
All right, I'm
until you
keeping it.
see otherwise.
Okay, so we'll see how that all shakes out. Really hard to just predict who's going to be better. Also, Kemper might just get injured again. That would be a reason. Like, with Lankinen, like it's actually kind of similar, right? Because it's like, but I don't know. I was gonna say like with Riddick, like I wouldn't drop because I could see Kemper getting hurt again soon because he's so brittle. But I guess obviously with Thatcher Demko, like we just kind of don't know his situation, so maybe that's not a good comparison. Maybe it's kind of similar. But yeah, I would hold on to Riddick a little longer, I guess is what I'll say. But it could also just be like then you're not maximizing your chances of winning, and maybe you have to move on now because probably it is just alternating. Let me give you another outjury. Oh, by the way, back on Philly, did Jamie Drysdale end up playing today? I saw that he was also taken off IR. Let me just check really quick to see if Drysdale's been in the lineup. He has been, not on the top power play. Still Emile Andre. So something to watch. I'm not interested in either, I guess. It is weird, right? In Philly with some guys really going off, like Michkov and Konechny, you would think the defenseman on their power play would be really valuable, but Emile Andre not hasn't been that exciting. Drysdale maybe will take that spot back. Honestly, it's just like Travis Sanheim. When he gets there, that's really valuable. It just makes him even better than he already is. But something to watch. Okay, I won't throw to you for that. Patrick Kane is back. I'm just going to finish off these outros with a couple boring ones. Patrick Kane seems like he's done. Seeing anything, like he came back, did nothing in his 2 games so far. Are you seeing anything to indicate that Patrick Kane is someone worth rostering in fantasy? Like his deployment seems good, so that's good. He's playing with
Yeah.
Alex DeBrincat, but he's not doing
I
anything.
just wrote I wrote Zeds under Patrick Kane in my notes.
I think it might be over.
I think it might be over. Like I don't think you hold on. Like at this point, I'd consider him like not that different to Vladimir Tarasenko, who we've been really ambivalent about, even though he is producing a little more than usual lately, and he still is. But Patrick Kane, he's not someone I'm holding on to. If I've Slavkovsky and Patrick Kane, I'm dropping Patrick Kane first.
And then Moritz Seider, since we're on Detroit, he is pointless in his last 5 games, down to only 13 points in 27 games on the season, a 39-point pace. I don't want to be that guy because I've gotten a lot of things wrong in my life, but I do recall in my couple draft I was deciding between Seider and Mackenzie Weegar, and I chose Weegar. And I remember there was some discussion of whether I made the right choice or not. I think I made the right choice, but I'm curious to know what you think, Brian, about Seider. Like, is this like last year he paced for 42? Like now he's kind of just back to pacing for what he's done the last couple of years. Like I know everyone's always expecting Seider is gonna break out, and he is only 23 years old. He plays a ton of minutes. He's getting top power play now, which is great. But nothing to show for it. Detroit's not like a super high scoring team, so it makes it tough. So yeah, I mean, I look at Seider kind of like a McAvoy just to bring him up again. Like with Boston barely scoring, it makes him just less appealing. Seider does give you those peripherals, which is nice. I don't know how different is he really from like an Alex Pietrangelo at the end of the day. Big minutes.
The difference is
he gets power play.
Yeah, that's the difference, and we've seen him be like really productive this year. Maybe that's a stretch. Like he did have a run early on at the start of the season. I remember how excited we were. Just 5 points inside his last 17 games. And Elon, you said Detroit isn't a super high scoring team, but Seider's on the top power play, and that power play has been clicking pretty reasonably well. And Seider's just not getting in on it. And I think it's probably a matter of time before he starts getting a few more points, but we might just be looking at another season of Seider, giving you good peripherals, having opportunities to produce, but still it just kind of ending up being like a good result. Not a breakout, not a next step, not a regular week winner. He's basically on the same point pace. He's been a 42-point pace player for the last 2 seasons. He's on that point pace again. I expect I would still take the over on it because of that power play time that he wasn't always getting, but not that far over the way things are looking.
Okay, I stand corrected, so maybe a little bit more upside here since that power play is doing well. You would expect him to get in on a little more. I'll also mention Ville Husso has been playing 3 of the last games because Talbot and Line are both hurt, and he's actually been good in all 3 games, but still has lost them because Detroit, like I said, isn't scoring very much. Talbot and Line both could be back soon, so I don't know if you want to risk a Ville Husso start. Maybe he's a little less scary. now that he's had a few good games in a row, but I'm not that interested, to be honest. I feel like you'll probably be able to have better options out there. One last outjury, Brian, and then we'll take a break.
Okay, hang on.
Oh, you got something to say about Husso?
No, well, my thing to say to Husso is like, what are you doing, man? Like, I thought, the worst thing the worst thing a goalie can do is once we've decided who they are, to start being someone else. So that's a little frustrating.
Right.
I did just want to shout out Lucas Raymond because I always forget he exists. 9 goals, 7 assists, 16 points in his last 15 games, up to a 75-point pace on the season. 7 power play points in this stretch of 15 games. I was looking into this because of Seider, right? So if Raymond's getting a power play point on average every other game, Seider's getting like nothing. Raymond's also picked up 3 game winners for what that's worth in leagues that count them. 38 shots. So he's scoring on a quarter of his shots in this run, which won't be sustainable, but still it's really nice to see some steady, consistent production. I'm not sure he's been this good for this long before in his career. And then I'll also just toss out one other name here. Michael Rasmussen, top line, top power play last game. In fact, Rasmussen has been on the top power play for the last 6 games. He's picked up 2 power play points in that time. Had 5 shots on Saturday against Colorado, 4 shots earlier in the week against Boston. I remember Rasmussen being relevant for like a short stretch or 2 last year. I'm not sure what he's doing up there, but while he is, I think he's just worth a stream. All right, that's all I want to say.
Can I like? can I call BS on you?
Why?
No, I'm gonna be like, okay, go to your cupful team right now. I want to know if Michael Rasmussen is on your watch list. I'm gonna guess he's not. If he is,
he's not because I didn't realize this until I was prepping tonight. But look what what I'm doing right now.
You just adding him?
I clicked the star. He's on my watch list. And when I'm done the show tonight, I'm gonna look at what Detroit's schedule is. Oh, it's not great. Monday, Thursday, Saturday.
I mean, Monday, you get a game to start the week.
Yeah, Monday, but like I'm not going to add him for one game at the start of the week in all likelihood. And also to your point, Elon, like Detroit isn't scoring, right? They have 4 goals in their last 3 games. I would just expect, again, the power play thing throws me off that Seider's not getting in on it. So there you go.
It was good call out. 100%. I'm like, yeah, that's great reporting. He's on the top line, top power play. He's worth looking at. I think I mentioned him in Matchup Maximizer last week. But just when you got to the part where you said, like, I would take a look at him as a free agent.
I'm walking the walk.
I don't think you would.
He's on my watch list.
He's on your watch list. Okay, let me know when
he helped me last year. I have some good. I've had good times with Rasmussen. I've made a call or 2 on him that have worked out. Yeah.
Really?
Now
I want to look at his game log and see, like, it must have been that specific one game where he did well that did it for you with his 33 points last year. But okay, great. One more outry. I'll just mention. I'm spicy, Elon, today. Survivor fans will know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's do one more outry. Max Pacioretty is back. You'd think, who cares? He was on the top line with Marner and Matthews in this loss against Pittsburgh on Saturday. I have a hunch that won't last, A, because the Leafs lost, and B, because Pacioretty took a couple penalties, and I saw some like interview or something like I don't know, like him or the coach saying it was a bad penalty, and I don't know. So coaches don't like that when your players take bad penalties. So I wonder if he's back to the bottom 6. Who goes back up to the top 6 right now? I don't know. So something to watch. I mean, anyone who's playing with Matthews and Marner, you'd expect to be interesting. But yeah, like something to watch. I'm not rushing to grab Pacioretty, and even if I see that he's like, I would see like 2 or 3 games of him on that top line, I think, before I'm confident it'll last. Otherwise, it would just be like a one-day stream. Like if you look, and I guess Toronto's schedule also isn't anything special next week. I don't believe. Let me bring it up again here. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I feel like the odds are like 25% chance Pacioretty's still on that top line come the Sunday when you'll likely be able to fit him into your roster. Any disagreement, Brian? I know you're a former huge Pacioretty fan.
Yeah, well, maybe he won't still be on the top line. Maybe he'll be back getting a game on the top line on Sunday.
Right.
That's more how I might see it. I guess Fraser Minton could get another look, but like he hasn't. He had 4 points in a 5-game stretch and now has nothing for 3 games.
Okay, let's do ad break here. We'll come back with injuries. All right, so we're through with the outjuries. We're like deep into the show, and I've got a bunch of injuries to get to. So we'll see. I'm having fun though. I'm not going to stress about it. I can chat with Brian all night. Hopefully, the listeners are enjoying this so far. If you're not, let me know in a DM. You don't need to share that like publicly. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about here. And it's like always when I'm like behind schedule is when I start rambling and just make it worse. I'm digging myself a hole here. Brian, out injuries. Okay. Over in Minnesota, Joel Eriksson is hurt. I talked about this with Shams on the short shifts on Thursday, which was a lot of fun. Not great. Like I'm sure Joel Eriksson managers are all really frustrated because he's like been such a solid guy. In the meantime, Marco Rossi, top line, top power play. Marco Rossi is clearly the guy who's getting the big benefit. He's having a great season so far. Now he's getting power play time, which is helping him do even better. 6 points in his last 5 games, up to a 70-point pace on the year. So you definitely want to take a look at Marco Rossi if he's somehow still out there. I'll also mention for your deep leagues, in the last game, for what it's worth, against LA, Marcus Foligno was on the top power play with Rossi, Kaprizov, Boldy, and Jared Spurgeon. That means Ryan Hartman and Marcus Johansson, like your other guys were like, on the second power play. Eventually Zuccarello will come back. It's not going to be a long-term thing. I don't know when the schedule will be worth like even considering getting someone like Marcus Foligno, but just like Brian reported on Michael Rasmussen, I have to report on a top power play, Marcus Foligno, who, by the way, does have also 2 assists in his last 3 games. Nothing on the power play yet.
It's all about journalistic integrity, having to report on these players. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I still have Marcus Johansson on my roster for some reason. He's got to go. What did I want to... Oh, Marco Rossi? So good. He's really good. Top line, top power play. And like I'm actually thinking, like, I know we've talked about him a lot on the show, but I feel like he's been this productive. 23 points in 27 games. He has pointed in 19 of 27 games this year, and only once has Rossi gone back-to-back games without being on the score sheet. I don't know how he's been this productive without us really singing the praises of Marco Rossi. His shot rates are poor, but I don't want him shooting. You give it to the other guys. They'll take care of it. So way to go, Marco Rossi. There's a shout out that he is like definitely rosterable, because I feel like every time we've talked about it, it's like, yeah, you could and see how it goes. He only gets a shot every game. So if he doesn't point, it's kind of hurt. It kind of hurts. And even the assist isn't amazing too on top of a shot, depending on your format. But if he's going to just be this consistent at it, then I want him.
Well, yeah, and especially now on the top power play, and especially with just Kaprizov continuing to be absolutely insane, multi-point games up the wazoo. He's up to now 42 points in 26 games, 132-point pace. We knew he was good. This is a whole other level, and you could say the same thing, except we didn't even know he was good, from Philip Gustafsson, who, like, at this point, I feel like there's nothing more to say. Like, I just can't think of that. If we were doing a Schmore goalies board, like, again, right now, I don't know how we can't have him. Like, for the rest of the season, like, which goalies do you want the most in fantasy? How is Philip Gustafsson not in, like, tier 1 or tier 2 at worst? He's, on a 4-game win streak right now, all gems. They had to finally give him a rest and play Fleury against LA, and they lost. And now Gustafsson, I'm sure, is going to play another 3-4 games in a row. And it's probably going to be really great. Minnesota's a great team. I don't know, like, how much it hurts to have Joel Eriksson out of the lineup, but he is dialed in. Philip Gustafsson, way to go. This guy is a UFA. Oh, no, he's not. He still has another year. I bet he wishes he was a UFA after this year.
I mean, yeah, given his track record of not ever being good for long. But this is great for Gustafsson and anyone who was able to grab him, I think, mostly out of free agency earlier this season.
No. I don't think out of free agency. Like, he was drafted in my division, but...
Yeah. Okay.
But late pick anyways.
It was a late pick, and I think there was enough like shakiness at the start to not be sure. But Gustafsson's been great. He's 3rd in the league in 5-on-5 save percentage, .947. First in the league, by the way, Cam Talbot. Gotta shout that out and eat that crow every time it's true. But Elon, versus his expected number, Philip Gustafsson is actually... No, I'm joking. He's 7th in the league. He's playing 18 save points above the expected number, which is like incredible. That's high end. So way to go, Philip Gustafsson, and congrats to anyone who was fortunate enough to have him on their roster.
Yeah, I'm very jealous. Okay, next injury, Ryan O'Reilly is hurt. We talked about that also on the Thursday show. Nashville is so bad. It's really just incredible how bad they are. They lost to the Sens, which, enough said. Anyways, in that game over the weekend, so the lines were Forsberg, Stamkos, and Nyquist. And then I think I said Stamkos. But you know what? I won't even correct the pronunciation. For now on, let's call him Stamkos because he's coasting on a lot of people's rosters at this point. What is he, like pointless in 3, pacing for 38 points? Would it be insane to drop Steven Stamkos? Like, okay, let me put it this way, Brian. Let's say Steven Stamkos is dropped in your cupful division tomorrow. Like, how much fab do you have left? Do you know off the top of your head what your budget is remaining?
I have $65 of fab.
Are you dropping 65 on Stamkos if he's dropped in your div tomorrow?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like,
like the saddest. That'll be like. I remember one time I went to visit my uncle, who's like maybe one of the cheapest people. Who's maybe one of the cheapest people I've ever met. I won't say which uncle, but I remember like I went with him to like some store or something, and he had to like buy something, and then there was like it was cost a little more than he wanted to, and the way he like handed that money over, I'll always remember just the look of like anguish on his face as he was like handing over that money. That sounded like that's what you reminded me of when you talked about having to spend that $65 to get Stamkos.
Yeah, like I would. I mean, something's got to give in Nashville, right? Like, how much longer do we have to watch this? 7 games and counting for the Predators where they've scored 2 goals or less, and they ticked the or less box in their last 2 losses: 3-0 to Montreal and 3-1 to Ottawa. Both like demoralizing, right? Like those are teams like. Those are winnable games, and to me, those losses back to back seem like they could be a job ender for Andrew Brunette. The Predators did take 38 shots against Ottawa on Saturday, but still, I'm wondering, do we have any modern day examples of this? A team loading up in this way and going absolutely nowhere. We're almost 30 games in now. They're 32nd in the league in goals scored, 25th in the league in goals against. Nothing is working. So what do the Preds do now? And like, part of this is we don't know if Steven Stamkos can perform outside Tampa. Like, is it him? Is it the team? I have to, like, I'm leaning it's a team issue. Like, they just haven't figured out how to operate. So yeah, I think I'd spend the 65 on Stamkos, and I'd give it a week or two and see if they get a new coach or something else drastic. Yeah, and then move on if I have to. But I will buy that lotto ticket for sure. You know what I was thinking, Elon? Like,
hit me.
Chicago just changed coaches, and part of their problem is they don't seem to have enough in the lineup still. Like, they added Foligno and Bertuzzi and Hall and Teravainen, but like they're still missing enough to like take a reasonable step towards contending or rebuilding.
Okay.
I wonder if there's like a trade option in here somehow. I don't know what it would be, but Nashville has all these guys. I don't know that they've committed to, but it's not working out. And Chicago is looking for guys who could maybe help their team be more competitive, like respectable on a night in, night out basis. Could they not make each other happy here? Just a thought.
I don't know. Okay. Good thought, I guess.
Wow. I don't know. Good thought, I guess. I mean, it doesn't have to be a good thought. It could be.
When you brought up, by the way,
bonkers.
no, it was great. When you brought, I was like thinking more actually while you were talking about that question you asked about. What is there another example? The name that comes to me is like your Ottawa Senators. Was it all the same year when they got like Giroux and DeBrincat and like Chychrun? Maybe I'm conflating a couple.
It's like
years.
over a couple years, but yeah,
it definitely seemed like they were like, oh man, they're gonna be so.
Right.
And now they just got Allmark. Now I'm like combining even more.
Right
years.
after
they keep getting all these great players, and they still suck.
After the summer of Pierre Dorion, and like I was also thinking the Devils, like when they Hamilton was still relatively new, and they added Meyer. Like they had a rough season last year.
Yeah, but nothing like
Toffoli was in the mix too. No, nothing like this.
Like New Jersey scored goals last year. Nashville doesn't even score goals.
Nashville doesn't even score
They
goals.
should work on that. Forsberg is pointless in 6 games. I just have to say it. That's sad. Sorry.
Yeah.
I would add him if he was dropped. I would spend my remaining fab, but sad. Anyway, so it's nice to know, at least when I'm looking at all of my like sad players who aren't doing things, I can at least think about like, at least I don't have like Philip Forsberg. So there's always that you can have for yourself. Okay, let's go. Okay, you brought up Chicago. I guess there's an injury here now. Also, Petr Mrazek is hurt. Apparently, it's going to be a 1 to 2 week thing. Ooh, Are we going to recommend that you go and grab Arvid Soderblom? You're probably going to get all the games. Laurent Brossois is like, no one's heard from him. I don't think he's coming back. I wouldn't be surprised if Soderblom plays a lot. He hasn't been that like there was a stretch earlier in the year where he was looking really good and like the minimal action he was getting. Now 3 straight games of letting in 3 goals, sub 900 save percentage. Hard to expect things to go that well. But if you need volume, there's a guy who's probably going to play the most of any goalie in your free agency currently over the next couple of weeks. So Arvid Soderblom, have fun if you want.
Yeah, have fun, enjoy that ride. I was just reading like an article on The Athletic about like, how he, like the one of these classic, it was when he was playing well, and then like, well, this is how Arvid Soderblom, like this is what he did differently to turn things around, and then he had like 3 crummy starts in a row. So I guess it didn't work.
Well, I guess who are the opponents? Let me just see. Let's give him some benefit of doubt. Winnipeg, Toronto. Okay, those last 2, those are tough opponents at least. Before that, he let in 3 goals on 24 shots against Anaheim. I'm sure he wants that one back. Also on Chicago, I'll mention quickly, like Alex Vlasic has been really solid. Like if he's still out there for you, I think it's time to really consider it. Until Seth Jones comes back, Vlasic has been quarterbacking the top power play, and he's on a streak now. He scored in 2 straight games. He had a 6-shot game a little while ago. I thought that Alex Vlasic was supposed to be this like defensive guy. I remember I traded him last year in my dynasty league. He was coming up on this new contract. I was at a live Keeping Karlsson meetup in Ottawa, and I wanted to dump Josh Anderson's contract, so I just traded Vlasic and Josh Anderson for nothing. I'll give you Vlasic for free. I expected him to be like some nothing, like decent peripherals guy, and now all of a sudden Alex Vlasic is taking shots and scoring goals. So, anyways, he's good. If he's available even in a 1-year league, like a couple, like I'd grab him now for while he's on the top power play, and I'm gonna start potentially regretting not just figuring out a way to make that money work with that contract. I held on to Gustav Forsling. He makes more than Alex Vlasic. I should have.
Yeah, Vlasic's been good. 2 or more shots in 5 straight, including 6 shots versus Columbus a week ago. He's been on the top power play for 10 games. Vlasic has put up 4 power play points in that time. He's an easy ad right now, IMO. Elon, would you drop Alex Pietrangelo for Alex Vlasic?
What is the Seth? Let me just get really quickly here. The Seth Jones, the last tweet we have over at GameDayTweets.com for Seth Jones. Luke Richardson said, this is December 4th, only a few days ago. Luke Richardson said they're hoping Seth Jones will join the team on their New York road trip next week, but not sure when exactly he'll be back on the ice. Sounds like so, yeah. That started good and ended like not so good if he's not just going to get on the ice. So I'd consider it. Yeah. Especially if you just are really focused on winning now. It's not like maybe if I'm in first in a league and like I don't really care so much about maximizing my next like 2-3 weeks. I'm just focused on the fantasy playoffs come March. Then I think I would hold on to Pietrangelo. But I think for now, while he's on the top power play, yeah, give me Alex Vlasic over Pietrangelo. And I assume you agree?
Yeah, I'm surprised you took that long to think about it.
Okay. Well, I will say this. I'll bet you right now. I predict that Alex Pietrangelo will have more value during your fantasy playoffs than Alex Vlasic. So long term, I would want Pietrangelo. So that's my answer. That part, I guess you disagree.
Yeah.
About.
No, I think that part is like I'm talking like 1 year right now. I'll take Vlasic, but I mean, how much better does it get for Pietrangelo from here on out?
I think he has more. Okay, anyway, yeah. So we've discussed these guys. Definitely go get Alex Vlasic if he's still available for you right now. Rasmus Dahlin is hurt on Buffalo. We still don't know what's going on with him. Buffalo has a good schedule next week. So I guess good. Well, bad timing for Buffalo. Bad timing if you have Rasmus Dahlin and you were excited to get all those games from him next week on off days. We don't know how long he'll be out. In the meantime, it looks like Owen Power has gotten the majority of the power play one time. There was a tweet during one of the games where Bowen Byram took over. Power did have an assist in the last game and 4 shots. Wasn't on the power play. He's been pretty cold for a while, but he is, former first overall pick recently. So he's had little stretches. While Dahlin's out, I would be into Owen Power, but I think I would take. Let me throw it out this way: I would take Alex Vlasic over Owen Power for next week, even if they're both on the top power play.
Okay, yeah, I'll go with you there. I mean, Buffalo is struggling, right? They have a single power play goal over the last 8 games on 22 attempts. And the one goal that they have scored on those 22 attempts was 3 forwards, Tage Thompson from Jason Zucker and Alex Tuck. Now, Owen Power did point on Saturday and took 4 shots, which is a nice sign. But before that, he'd been pointless in 8 of 9 games, taking just 15 shots in that stretch, despite seeing some power play one time in there. So I dropped Owen Power. I missed that assist he got on Saturday in the 4 shots. Too bad, but I'm not so sad about it because I'm not sure how great he can be. Although I think it's time to wonder, like, how soon is Rasmus Dahlin going to be able to actually come back? It seems like I would like to have seen some more promising news by now. Meanwhile, by the way, Bo Byram still in the picture too. He seems capable, and he's holding up. Reportedly, he's holding up better than the rest of that withering Buffalo squad, but no fancy relevant numbers to show for it. So we'll see what the next week brings in Buffalo, but I'm not going to assume that either one of these guys is going to have a big week. Maybe one of them can have a good game, but that seems to be it. By the way, poor Buffalo. Holy cow. It's happening again. Do you remember at the start of the season, Elon, where I sort of floated the theory that, like, we were getting excited about all these, but like Tage Thompson and Alex Tuck and Paterka and Quinn and Cousins. And I also said, but also it's Buffalo. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so you were right.
It's Buffalo. Poor Buffalo. It's sad.
Well, at least they're not Nashville. You always have that, no matter where you are.
At least you're not Nashville. Did you see the thing that their general manager said that, like, they don't have palm trees and they have high taxes?
Who? Nashville?
No, Buffalo.
Or Buffalo?
Yeah.
They don't have palm trees and they have high taxes, and that's why they suck. But they have all these good young players. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, they've done what they need to do when it's hard to attract free. But everyone's mad right now. Everyone's real mad.
Someone needs to step up. But okay. We'll see how things go. Dahlin being out is not going to help things, I wouldn't think. Also, the lines shifted. I mentioned on Matchup Maximizer how Jason Zucker's been on the top line and top power play. That already changed mid-game in their last game versus Utah. Ryan McLeod took over on the top line for a bit, so who knows what the lines will be. You can watch game day tweets. It's 4 games for Buffalo next week. I really doubt the lines are going to stay the same for all 4 games, kind of like the Toronto thing I was saying before. Next outry, let's go to Riker Evans in Seattle, who was on a nice run, so it's a bummer for him that he's hurt. I guess for Seattle, they lose Riker Evans, but they have gained Vince Dunn. He's come back. We mentioned that last week, and Dunn has been great. At this point, we're at 6 points in his last 4 games, so pointing pretty much every game since coming back from his injury, getting a lot of power play time today. So I even prepped this before today's game, and Seattle beat the Rangers. Did they? Yeah, 7-5. Wow.
They sure did.
And Vince Dunn scored himself a goal, had 4 shots, another good game for him. And it's one of these situations where Brendan Montour, I don't know if people were a little worried, like he's doing really great as well. He had an assist today, 8 points in his last 10 games for Montour. So I asked you last week, actually, if it's possible all 3 can be good. And, like, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to find that out right now. It'll be fun to see when Riker Evans is back if all 3 of these defensemen can keep up the runs they've been on. While we're on Seattle, I'll also mention that Shane Wright had a couple games in a row with goals. Again, like, I prepped this before the game today. Let's see how Shane Wright did today. Another goal! Look at this guy. That's good. Okay, take a look and see if Shane Wright is out there. Maybe maybe this is the start of something. Or maybe it's just a total aberration. Like, it's one of these things where, yeah, it's like goals on like a few number of shots. So I think I already could fill in the blanks of what Brian's going to say. But, you know, I don't know. Just like, who did I say this about before? He's like super young. Like, he's learning. Oh, Lane Hudson, right? Like, maybe he's just going to be getting better. Jeremy, when he comes back for a Short Shifts episode, can give his Seattle fan take on what he's seeing from Shane Wright recently.
Yeah, a lot of Seattle players doing well. The Kraken woke up this week and chose offense. 7 goals today gives them 25 goals in their last 6 games with the power play that's clicking too. The thing is, today Seattle took just 22 shots, and the game before that they took just 19. Before that they had 25. This all means that they're scoring a lot of goals on not so many shots. I mean, before that, they had like 20, 30 shots, sure. But over this stretch of 6 games where they're scoring a lot of goals, the Kraken hold a 15% shooting percentage as a team and have 6 guys who are on a 60-plus point pace in the last 2 weeks. That's twice as many who are on that same 60-plus point pace for the full season. Some of those guys, you mentioned Shane Wright, 4 power play points. Good for him. 5 goals on 12 shots. Oliver Bjorkstrand, fantastic game today on the whole over the last couple of weeks in 8 games, 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists, a couple power play points. Chandler Stevenson getting in on the action just a little bit. I'm just mentioning him in case all the Kraken. I'm shouting him out for his contribution to my own fantasy team. If all the Kraken were taken, he was the one that was left, and he performed. He had 3 power play points too. Yanni Gourde, Riker Evans, a lot of guys did a lot of things.
Well,
but
not
I'm
Riker
not.
Evans. Oh,
No.
oh my God.
Well, in the last 2
You
weeks,
didn't even correct me, Brian. Riker
Why?
Evans did play today. My
Oh.
whole thing is useless.
because I didn't realize he played today. Oh wait,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, maybe I did.
Okay, well, should we leave it in?
What's the problem?
Well, I guess you weren't listening. I went on a whole thing about how Riker Evans is injured.
And see if they can all keep getting points with the 3 guys in there. Yeah, you're right. I should have. I didn't know, or I didn't catch
All right.
it.
Do you
What
want
do
to
you
just
wanna do?
okay? Let's just do the whole Seattle thing again, but it'll be super fast now because I'll just
Okay.
go right to the. I'll just.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. So I'm blaming Brian. It's my own fault. I don't know. Well, this game happened after I. Anyway, whatever. Okay.
It's both our faults.
Next injury. Let's go to Seattle here. Riker. For the next injury, I was planning on going to Seattle to talk about Riker Evans being hurt. I see that Riker Evans came back today for the Kraken in their 7-5 win. So I guess nice for him. He didn't get a point, even though the Seattle scored 7 times. I asked you last week if with Vince Dunn and Montour and Evans, can all 3 be good, or is Evans going to take a step back? I mean, today, 15 minutes, though he's coming back from an injury, so who knows? Maybe time will still tell for Riker Evans, but Vince Dunn has been great, scored today. Brendan Montour has been great. So those 2 are solid, and a whole bunch of other Kraken forwards are doing really well as the team is scoring a lot. Big game today for Oliver Bjorkstrand, 2 goals, 2 assists. Shane Wright's goal streak continues. Any general thoughts on this all of a sudden out of nowhere high-scoring Seattle Kraken team?
Yeah, all of a sudden out of nowhere, because they're scoring on 15% of the shots they take as a team. Seattle had 7 goals today. That gives them 25 goals over the last 6 games. Their power play's clicking, which is one of the reasons that they've got this high team shooting percentage. But they only took 22 shots today, so they scored on like a third of their shots. Granted, one was on an empty net, but still. Before that, Seattle had 19 shots in the game before that, 25 shots in the game before that. This is just a team that's on a heater. I think they've got 6 guys on a 60-plus point pace in the last couple weeks, which is twice as many who are on it for the full season. Jaden Schwartz getting on that ride. Shane Wright, 5 goals, and on 12 shots. So that's like, oh yeah, but 4 power play points, so good for him. Oliver Bjorkstrand with a fantastic. He's got like a point per game over the last couple weeks. 8 points, 8 games. Chandler Stevenson also getting in the mix with 3 power play points. Yanni Gourde, Riker Evans. A lot of guys doing a lot of things in Seattle, but I don't expect it to last.
One crazy stat from today's game, 7 goals, like I said, for the Kraken over the Rangers. There's only 2 forwards who didn't get a point, and they are Jared McCann and Jaden Schwartz, who was on a great hot run. So that sums up what it's like to have one of these Kraken players. I have Jaden Schwartz, and I was kind of struggling on whether I should hold him. Like, I really only added him for this week. Like, that was the game plan next week. I'm already full on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday with, like, Schwartz. I was assuming was going to be on my bench, but then with his great week, I was, like, thinking, maybe I should hold on. Okay, I think this is the sign. Even though now probably he will go off again, but I'm going to drop Jaden Schwartz, I think. So have at it. Tier 3, Leung B.
I think that's a reasonable thing to do. But how frustrating for anyone with Jared McCann, right? To see, like, he's the one guy who should be stirring this drink.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
I guess aside
week.
from Dunn and Montour. Maybe they're the most sure things, actually.
Yeah.
By the way, Shams pointed out in the chat, back for the Buffalo talk, their lines for tomorrow, they had Peyton Krebs up with Thompson and Tuck. So there's someone you could take a shot on. I'm very confident he's not going to do well there. Just a hunch. Maybe. I'd love it. Brian, we have him in our Dynasty League. I've been considering dropping him. Actually, he probably would have been someone we dropped, except he has like 2 years. He has this year and next year in his contract, so I didn't really feel like buying out for 2 years. So let's go, Peyton Krebs. No chance. Okay, any more injuries here? I'll just run through the next couple. Trevor Zegras is hurt, and apparently he was seen on crutches, so that stinks. He was starting to get going a little bit. Looks like maybe he'll be out quite a while. Cam Fowler is back. He had an assist in his second game, but he's Cam Fowler, and now he's Cam Fowler without power play time. So I think it's past the expiration of when we should be talking about him on the podcast. I guess we should probably mention that Jacob Trouba is joining Anaheim. I know a lot of podcasts probably spend like the whole time just talking about that because there's so much drama. But as far as the fantasy impact goes, I don't see a reason why I'd expect anything really to change for Trouba. Like he has 6 points in 24 games, playing big minutes. I assume he'll get similar ice time. Anaheim doesn't score goals. Like I don't think this is good for Trouba. I don't think it's necessarily bad for him because things can't get much worse. He has good peripherals.
He might see more ice time, and he might have more time to throw hits and block shots.
Right.
And maybe take another shot every so often too. But yeah, I'm not like this isn't something to get excited about. I think it doesn't do anything really for Trouba's fantasy value, which was pretty much fringe at this point anyway. We'll see how his first few games go, and if he has like any big impact moments or runs in the peripheral categories, but I'm not expecting a whole lot out of him.
Okay, and then Tyler Seguin is out for a long time, maybe for the season. He's had surgery, so that's a bummer. He was doing really well. In the meantime, Dallas is playing today against Calgary. It's 2-2, so let me just give you the most up-to-date lines. It's Logan Stankoven still up, just like Chams and I talked about on Thursday, with Marchment and Duchesne. Dallas only plays 2 times next week, so it's one of those situations where maybe you're starting to think about which of your Dallas players are really worth holding on to through a bad schedule. Only 2 games, both on super busy days. Like, I like Stankoven on that second line, but I think he's probably still a drop. Curious to know if you agree or disagree. Maybe the same goes for Thomas Harley, by the way. At this point, I'll just throw another name at you, who's, rostered in a lot of leagues. Had a decent stretch at some point. Yeah, middle of the season, but now he's pointless in 4. We'll see. I think I would be good to drop either of those guys. I mean, obviously, for Harley, if you're getting 2 games from him and you're dropping for a forward that will only get you 1 game, that's a whole other thing to consider. But seems to me like those are 2 fringe guys that maybe you could let go.
Yeah, I think my question for Harley is like, why are you holding him all this time? 7 points in his last 17 games, 34-point pace on the season. Sometimes Harley takes 4 shots. Sometimes he gets a couple blocks, but I don't think he's meeting the rosterable threshold in most leagues. So feeling like that was already the case in a 2-game week. Absolutely not. See you later, Thomas Harley, in my books. Logan Stankoven had 7 shots on Friday from the second line. Haven't seen how many he's taken tonight. But I still, without the production and only 2 games, I'm not sure that's enough in a cup full-size league, which has about 250 players rostered in most divisions. So I think, I would... honestly, if I had Stankoven and Olofsson was out there, I would happily trade off Stankoven for Olofsson, even though it's not necessarily helping me a whole lot in schedule. But I'll take the guy who's going to be more likely to be helpful to me over the next couple weeks. Elon, my question for you, Jamie Benn.
Okay.
I have him. Do I hold him? He's doing just enough to stay rostered to me. 3rd line. Top power play. Do I hold Jamie Benn for 2 games?
I think so. I feel like he's the kind of guy that if you drop him, then the following weeks you're gonna be ugh. I guess it depends how deep your roster is and how confident you are that you are you in a situation where you have 4 or 5 guys that all are players you don't expect to be long-term people, or are you in a situation where you love everybody, so even if you lose Jamie Benn, you need to open up a stream spot anyway? I feel like that's kind of the way I think about it, because I think Jamie Benn, I think we know kind of what he is. I think he's going to be around a 50 to 60 point guy, fringe rosterable, but someone who's going to produce.
Let me frame it for you this way. I have Mathieu Olivier, who
I would drop him.
Stinks, but he has a good schedule next week. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to drop Olivier. I have enough guys to drop before Benn. Olivier, Perfetti, Stevenson, Johansson. I don't think I need to drop Benn, although I wish he was playing more games. I think I think my choice is made for me by the number of spots on my roster that are much more replaceable.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too from those names you've thrown at me. One more injury, Phil Tomasino. So sad. He was having such a nice start over in Pittsburgh. He's hurt. Hopefully, it won't be for too long. What is it? Upper body injury. I don't think we have any timeline yet for Tomasino. Yesterday, Cody Glass got up to play with Malkin on the second line. For whatever that's worth, Malkin's been pretty cold. Actually, you know what? I want to spend my Pittsburgh time not talking about the forwards. I want to talk about Tristan Jarry really quickly, who we all like kind of joked about because he was so terrible. Then he went to the minors, and then we were like, oh, spent like every show of the whole week anticipating his return to the team, only for him to kind of blow it. But you know what? Last 4 games for Tristan Jarry, 4 wins. So like jokes on us. And maybe I grabbed him for 1 game, was so annoyed at myself that he did so badly and I dropped him. You know, I'm sure the person who has him now, I'm sure is very happy. I'm not saying I think this is going to last necessarily, but I'm reporting the news. Tristan Jarry has won 4 straight games, 2 goals against versus the Leafs, 27 shots. So that's a really nice start for Jarry on Saturday in a game where I think a lot of people were really afraid to start him against the Leafs.
Yeah, just to defend my lineup for a minute, I have Tomasino. I added him, and then he got injured right away. So, like, I shouldn't have this many spots to... anyway, Tristan Jarry. Yeah, he's on a bit of a roll, isn't he? He doesn't do this often. He's had 3 straight good starts. 2 of them quality, 1 of them almost quality. I mean, he stopped 37 of 41 shots and got the win. It's a 905 save percentage. 902, which doesn't necessarily... it's below the league average save percentage, so not a quality start. But, I mean, pretty good performance. And like I said, this doesn't happen so often that Jarry strings together 3 or more straight starts that are good. To Jarry's benefit, Nedeljkovic has been real shaky and unsteady himself, an 870 save percentage in his last 8 games. So, Elon, I think, I made the call when Jarry was coming back from injury, or from, injury / rebirth, that this was going to be a chance for him to sort of get resettled, reset, and do something. And so far, so fine. I'm not going to say good.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm going to say fine.
He's like Elvis Merzlikins. But actually Merzlikins is playing more, so I think I'd probably still take Elvis Merzlikins, who had a good game today, by the way, against Winnipeg after getting really hammered by Vancouver. So I'm just throwing out another name there. Just a little bonus content for people who've made it this far. Here's another piece of bonus content back on Pittsburgh. Blake Lizotte has 6 points in his last 4 games. I'm not going to waste our time for Brian to go and talk about the high shooting percentage, but that's a thing that's happening. It's not going to last. Speaking of hot streaks.
Blake Lizotte, by the way, wins the award this week for being the guy that I looked at adding. And I was like, nah, he's not going to do anything more. He can't. And then he did. Yeah, 4 goals on 8 shots in his last 5 games, plus 3 assists and a shorty to boot, all from the third line, which in Pittsburgh is not a great line, playing 13 minutes a night. So way to go, Blake Lizotte.
And speaking of hot streaks, maybe not as hot as Blake Lizotte, but we still have a few of them to get to, so we will wrap up in just a sec. All right. I guess we can do a bit of a lightning here as we go through this.
Let's bring it on home.
All right. Okay, Brian, we're in the hot streak section of the episode here. Number 1 hot streak is Igor Shesterkin's wallet. He has signed a monster contract. Is it the most expensive contract of all time for a goalie? Definitely the most expensive contract of any goalie currently in the league. What did Carey Price get? I don't know. Shesterkin, $11.5 million a year. Pretty impressive, and good for him. He's not even doing that well, but I guess the Rangers have decided, let's just lock this down. Amidst the Jacob Trouba drama, they locked in a big contract for Shesterkin. By the way, I should mention while I'm mentioning the Rangers, and I am on hot streaks, beyond Shesterkin's wallet, Panarin, Zibanejad, Trocheck, all were a little bit cold to varying degrees. All had great weeks this week. And I guess there was this game today that happened after I prepped the show. Let's see, how did they do here? Panarin, another 2 assists. Trocheck, a goal and an assist. And Zibanejad, 1 assist. So they're all going again. So that's nice to see for anyone who's held on with some struggle, especially Zibanejad, went cold for a while, and I was a little bit concerned. I still I'm not totally back on Zibanejad being a point per game guy necessarily, but 5 points his last 4 games, up to 20 points in 26 games on the year. So starting to come back to deliver like most of what his draft capital spent on him was, I
Yep.
guess.
Yeah. It's nice to see Zibanejad showing up, right? That's all we've been wanting him to do. So good job, Mika Zibanejad and Igor Shosturkin. Congratulations. One unfortunate trick that Shosturkin's pulling, one every 5 starts of his continues to be a really bad start, and that's a new feature that hasn't been present his whole career. It just started last year for Shosturkin, and I think, like, to me, if that keeps up, like if he has, like last year he had 10 really bad starts out of 55 starts. This year so far, 4 really bad starts out of 19. If he keeps doing that, that might be like enough to be a bit of a boot from tier 1, like, or at least to consider. I don't know that I'd kick him out, but you want someone who is not, like, a really bad start is not just not a quality start. It's like it'll blow up your numbers, and that's not something I want to be seeing from him.
No, for sure. But also the Rangers have been like kind of having a bit of an off year. My hunch is that things will turn around. They're not a Nashville situation. I think like the personnel's there. We'll see. Now they have their captain out of the picture. I don't know if that'll shake things up. I wouldn't worry too much. Like Shesterkin is obviously a really good goalie. But yeah, no, definitely hasn't been a banner year for him. So good for him to still get that bag. Let's go to our next player, similar to Zibanejad, someone who was kind of frustrating for a while. Maybe people were wondering if they should just rage drop him, but are happy they held on. Stuart Skinner over in Edmonton has really righted the ship here. A nice 2 goals against on 31 shots win over St. Louis yesterday. That's his 3rd win in his last 4 games. All of these last 4 games have been either 2 or 1 goal against. So kudos to Stuart Skinner and he's done this before, right? Like he did it, including in last year's playoffs, going through a rough stretch of games. And there are a lot of goalies that can't have trouble coming back from that. I think of like a Matt Murray, who a lot of people said was a kind of a head case in terms of just like the confidence. I like what I'm seeing from Stuart Skinner in terms of just being able to bounce back after struggling so much. So good for him. I'm very curious to see how the rest of the season will go, especially since I have him in a couple of my leagues. And of course, no hot streak section is complete, especially once you're on the Oilers, without mentioning Connor McDavid. 27 points in his last 13 games. It is getting to a point where, like, it's a weird game if he doesn't get 2 points at least. Like, just 1 point from McDavid is like, wow. What did he eat? Did he have some bad food? Did he like not sleep well the night before? Like it needs to be 2. That's the baseline he's setting lately.
Yep, I won't argue with that. Stuart Skinner, great in 5 of his last 6, 4-2 record, 921. So like we sort of thought this turnaround would come. It seems like it's coming. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. Also, speaking of turnarounds, I'm not fully ready to tell. I'm just going to load the numbers now. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was showing signs of life last I checked. Is he still pointless on Saturday? I hadn't seen that yet. But prior to that, he had 5 points in 4 games. He had no shots on Saturday, so that's a bit of a bummer. But we'll keep an eye on things. I don't know. I'm starting to think, like, if by chance he's floating around in free agency, I would take a chance on him now that he's going to be closer to fulfilling your preseason expectations of him than he has looked capable of doing.
Man, I've never been in a league that shallow where Ryan Nugent-Hopkins would be in free agency. So that would be very exciting if that ever happened for me. I would blow all my fab. I would go with Nugent-Hopkins over Stamkos.
Yeah.
In the hypothetical situation.
I think I would too. Would you would you trade for him at this point?
For Nuge?
Yeah.
Can I give Stamkos?
No.
Who do I have to trade? I mean, it depends.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I would invite you to consider your roster.
I like the top power play on Edmonton. Like, just like being there is nice. And so I feel like that's always just a nice opportunity to get some points. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'd consider moving. I'd probably give Owen Tippett. Probably no one's going to do that deal for me. Even though he did score today. Come at me,
there's a
RNH
chance.
manager, if you want. The next hot streak I wanted to bring up, Karel Vejmelka. Just sticking with the goalies a little bit. Since Ingram has been hurt, Vejmelka's been playing a ton of games, though Jackson Stauber is playing today on the second half of a back-to-back, and it looks like he's about to pull off a win here. It's 4-2 against Philly. So, I don't know. Maybe they don't have to play Vejmelka so many games. This kind of reminds me of when Ingram came up, and like I thought that he was not barely going to play, and he was a nobody. And then slowly but surely, he started getting more and more games and ended up taking over. Maybe Jackson Staver is the next Connor Ingram, but in the meantime, yeah, Vejmelka getting a lot of volume and doing well, like 2 goals against in 3 of his last 4 games. So yeah, he was available in free agency for everybody. I was lucky enough to get him on my Cupful team, and he's been a solid goalie for me. And with no update on when Ingram is going to come back, and I think the latest is just like it's going to be a while. I'm going to continue to ride out Karel Vejmelka, and if he's available in free agency in your league, I think you should do the same. I would definitely take him over Soderblom over on Chicago.
Definitely. Better chance of winning each night. And, Vejmelka's very up and down. Like, he seems to give you a couple good ones and then a couple bad ones, then a couple good ones and then a couple bad ones. So, you know what? I'll ride that to take the good ones, and I'll bench him if I'm ever really scared of taking a bad one.
Okay, so I have to also mention there's nothing actionable here, but Matthew Tkachuk is on a crazy heater right now. 15 points in his last 6 games. There was a 5-point game in there. There was a 4-point game in there. 2 goals against the Sharks on Saturday with 6 shots. So Matthew Tkachuk is just like, he has this in him, right? Whenever he's like kind of not doing too much, and people ask a question about like, oh, should I trade Matthew Tkachuk for this person? Whatever. I'm like, in my head now, I'll just always have it. It's like, just wait. Like Matthew Tkachuk is gonna go off eventually. Great to have like a Sam Bennett is on a 7-game point streak playing with Tkachuk. That's what's going to happen. By the way, Jesper Boqvist is the third lately on that line with Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett. And so, yeah, a complete nobody, but he has 3 points in his last 3 games, like all assists. So, in a deep league, for as long as that line holds, give me anyone playing with Matthew Tkachuk. So that includes a Jesper Boqvist. Got to throw something out there for the people in like a 20-team league here. And Aaron Ekblad, by the way, has been back on the top power play. So that is, I'm curious to see how long it'll last. He's got kind of been on and off, but now it's been 3 straight games. He did have a power play assist now 3 games ago. No points in his last couple of games, with 5 shots versus San Jose for Aaron Ekblad. So if he's still out there for you, you want the top power play guy in Florida, especially if it's Ekblad, who also plays a lot at even strength.
I wrote you, but you're popping again.
Yeah, I don't have my pop thing, so I don't know what I can do.
Okay.
Just, I don't know.
Okay.
My filter.
Yeah, I have Aaron Ekblad, and he is, I'm happy with what he's offered me since I added him being on the top power play. We'll see how long it lasts. Sam Bennett, also, you mentioned like Matthew Tkachuk going wild with Boqvist and Bennett. Jesper Boqvist and Sam Bennett. I was like going to sell high on Bennett like 3 weeks ago. I'm so glad I haven't yet. Like I still might, but honestly, playing with Matthew Tkachuk seems just like an incredible place to be. So I'm not in any rush. And a lot of the guys that I was looking at trading Sam Bennett for, I'm glad I didn't. I don't have like Slavkovsky was one of them, matter of fact. So I'm glad I held on to him. And I don't think I'm working on a sell high at this point in time.
Interesting. You did mention like an Elias Pettersson, Jake DeBrusk, like as sell highs. You've said the term sell high a few times this episode. So I wonder if we should now be like a little bit like, well, he also said sell high on Sam Bennett and was going to trade him for Slavkovsky.
Yeah, absolutely. I could. Yeah. I mean, I don't know for sure, but.
You know me. I'm kind of a little bit of a fan of the buy high. I want to find the manager who's trying to sell high.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, I'll take that guy off your hands. You don't think it'll last? Oftentimes it like doesn't last, but it doesn't go too much worse. Oftentimes it just like stays kind of consistent a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Depends on the situation. Yeah. Another hot streak. Would you be selling high on Rob Thomas, who's been great since coming back from his injury? He's up to now 6 points in his last 3 games, especially headlined by a 1-goal, 2-assist game against Calgary. Really like helping St. Louis turn things around, though obviously the other big name that's been going nuts in St. Louis lately is Dylan Holloway. Holy cow, he cannot stop scoring. He now has 9 points in his last 6 games, with 5 of them being goals. And it's not just like I'm sure it's a high shooting percentage, but there's a 5-shot game, 4-shot game. Like he's taking his shots to go along with the goals. And Dylan Holloway also isn't even getting that much power play time. Only 23 years old. I'm very curious to see if there's like a lot of upside here from this guy if eventually he does get like a top power play spot. The Oilers let a good one go, it seems. He's scoring like crazy.
Yeah, 23 years old, 14th overall pick, first round, back in 2020. Has 5 goals in his last 5 games, and those have come on 15 shots. So yeah, like it's not sustainable this way, but it is nice to see him find ways to produce regularly. He also has 4 assists in his last 6 games too. And Elon, you mentioned the shots. They keep coming. St. Louis has a good schedule this upcoming week. So if he happens to still be hanging around, he'd be a great guy to add to your roster. Dylan Holloway. I hadn't said his name for a little while, so let me just end that.
And probably
by
Rob
saying
Thomas.
Dylan
also.
Holloway. Oh well, Rob. Yeah, but he's not. He's not available.
Well, I know. Just if those are the 2 people you could have been talking about, since those are the guys that I brought up. I guess.
Okay. Yes.
Buchnevich also hot right now. Probably not available as well. Okay, next hot streak. Let's go over to New Jersey. I believe they talked about this on a short shifts recently, but I just want to mention Luke Hughes is keeping it up, getting himself kind of like a Lane Hudson situation here, not taking a ton of shots. Peripherals aren't really there, but it seems like Luke Hughes is starting to get into that like point almost every game territory. Of course, he doesn't have the top power play, so maybe it's a little bit less sustainable, but he's an exciting young player, and he did this last year too. He like started slow, and then by the end of the year, he was getting a point like very often. I'll also mention Jack Hughes, the other Hughes on that team. Were you aware there was another Hughes on New Jersey? He is on fire like crazy, 10 points in his last 5 games. I should have checked how many of those like are goals and that like both Hughes brothers got in on. There's got to be a few, I'd imagine. But man, Jack Hughes, not only does he have 10 points his last 5 games, but also crazy shots, a 6-shot game, 8-shot game, another 6. I see a 7 in there. So yeah, got it. And I feel like last week I kind of
shut out by the mighty Scott Wedgwood.
True, yeah, 6 shots. He tried his best.
He tried. -3.
What do you think about Luke Hughes versus Lane Hudson? If you were choosing between one of these low peripheral, high assist defensemen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they're like reasonably comparable. I think I'd go Lane Hudson. I don't know that I have a great reason why.
Top power play for now.
Well, yeah, but so is Luke Hughes.
No, Luke Hughes is second power play. It's Dougie Hamilton on the top power play.
Sorry. Ugh, can I retake that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, he hasn't been at all. My opponent added him, and for some reason I thought that meant he was on the top power play.
No, it just meant he's awesome.
Oh, he's not. Hudson's on the top power play. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I asked you a question. I said, who would you want between these 2 guys?
Yeah, and I said Lane Hudson. Okay.
Oh, so what am I putting in this? Yeah,
no,
exactly.
It's okay. I'll just answer your question. Oh my god.
No, I think so it's like when you said there's not much difference, and I said, well, top power play, and you'll say, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what you mean. Okay, sure. All right. How about next? Let's go to a former New Jersey Devil. Got to give some credit. I'm going to end here, Brian, with a couple of guys who are probably available in almost everyone's free agencies. Damon Severson is up to 5 points in his last 5 games. It was actually 5 points in his last 4 games, but then he didn't do anything today for Columbus in the win over Winnipeg, though Damon Severson was +3 for what it's worth. So he could have been in on something. He was on the ice for 3 goals, at least, maybe 4 if there was also a goal against. I don't know. I didn't dive into it, but yes. Is there anything here? Is Damon Severson something? He's also getting some blocks. I know there's nothing here.
Has there ever been like with Damon Severson? I mean, there was like a quarter of a season where like he was really legit something. He's playing huge minutes, which is great. So I think the blocks are going to keep coming. It's nice that shots are coming too lately. I can't imagine that Damon Severson continues to put up like big points. 2 of his he has 2 points. He had 2 goals, right, in consecutive games, or a goal in consecutive games, or 2 total on 7 shots. Nice stream.
Okay,
but that's it.
In Boston, who's this Mason Lohrei or Lohrei? Lohrei, 23 years old, on a streak of 4 points in his last 3 games. 2 of them power play points. 2 of those 4 points, they're all assists, by the way, I should mention, from the second power play. I feel like this Justin Brazeau keeps on scoring, and it keeps on being assisted by Mason Lohrei. Is there anything here? Like, also, like, McAvoy is cold again. Is it possible that Mason Lohrei, who, by the way, second round pick, 2020, could he be a power play one threat? Could Boston try swapping those guys, considering one is getting power play points and the other isn't?
I mean, stranger things have happened, right? We've seen Hampus Lindholm take the top power play, and Laurie has some offensive pedigree here too. For a college defenseman, he was putting up some really great numbers. He had about 60 points in 70 games in a couple of years with Ohio State, and in the AHL, last year was his first pro season. He had 16 points in 21 games. So I'm taking that as a sign that Laurie has the skills to run a power play. And I don't know that like he'd be the solution here. Like I'm not sure if Boston has their power play figured out enough that they just need someone different quarterbacking it. But I would like to see them try, see what happens. So he's someone to keep an eye on. Native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Fun. I think that definitely if you're a Pasternak owner, you're just like anyone. Just try someone and make it work, please. I'm not going to ask how. I'm going to ask how many points can you get Pasternak in the very short term, please. So if that's the answer, then go for it. By the way, we gave a bit of crap here to Steven Stamkos and Nashville, and it's what's looking like not a great signing. I think we have to be fair here and say, like, I don't know if Stamkos was the worst signing based on the results so far, because he has 13 points in 28 games. He signed for $8 million a year for 4 years. You know who else signed for around $8 million a year, but for even more than 4 years, is Elias Lindholm, who on Boston he's making 7.75, so he's right there. But he signed for a 7-year contract. He also has 13 points. He's also been a huge bust. So
yeah,
I'm not letting him off scot free. Elias Lindholm,
don't.
you may be the worst free agent signing of 2024.
Dang, when Elon says that, like that hurts.
I gotta say it. Yeah, but in fantasy, I don't know. If he was dropped in your couple division, Brian, I guess same question, as Stamkos, would you be spending all your fab to get line one, power play one? Actually, what have the lines been lately? Let me check here. I know power play one. In the last game, Elias Lindholm was playing with Pasternak and Brad Marchand. Like, you can't get any better, but you also
I wouldn't drop all my fab for Elias Lindholm. That's like we've never seen him, like, now that like Vancouver didn't go well. He struggled in Carolina too. Like, we've never seen him do well outside of that like one situation in Calgary. So I'm not I'm not gonna drop all my fab for Lindholm. Marchand, by the way, like, just worth mentioning, he's
he went off.
Well, no one is doing as well as we expect them to in Boston. He's 4 points in his last 3 games, but he's still just at a 59-point pace this season. Only 6 power play points through almost 30 games. I don't know if we're going to be able to expect a whole lot more from him the rest of the way. I'd like to think the power play can figure itself out, and that'll get Marchand closer to like the 70-point mark that we're used to seeing him at. But I'm not going to say it's a sure thing.
I'm going to end on a positive note here, just to say, going back to David Pasternak, he has a really low shooting percentage. So just throwing it out there. If he scored a few more goals, like, got his shooting percentage back to 12, 13% like he usually is, he wouldn't be as bad. So just something to say to my fellow Pasternak managers.
Yeah, good for you.
All right, pal. Well, that is the end of our show right
All right.
there.
Let me throw one just gonna throw a little bonus. I mean, it's kind of like a moment. I already said eat crow. I'm trying to think of another. It's a humbling moment. Adam Gaudette still putting up points. Like, he really did slow down, but now he's got points in consecutive games, Saturday and Sunday, a goal and an assist. He's still playing with Giroux and Stützle. And what's kind of wild here is that he is tied with Brady Tkachuk for the team lead in goals with 13. Wow. In fact, that's good enough for them both to be tied for 16th in the NHL in goals scored this season. Adam Gaudette, some fun names in this group. Stefan Nissen has 13 goals. Barbashev has 13 goals. Jack Roslovic has 13 goals. All tied with Adam Gaudette and Connor McDavid and Nikita Kucherov with 13 goals apiece.
Wow. I mean, Tim Stützle is so good. Like you want to have like if there's a good streaming schedule, you're gonna want the guy playing with Stützle. So right now it's Gaudette. It's kind of like what I said about Jesper Boqvist playing with Matthew Tkachuk, right? Like and Gaudette's, I guess, yeah, scored some goals here, taking advantage even more than Jesper Boqvist. But doesn't matter who you are. At some point, the deployment is just going to boost you up. But obviously, I don't want to take too much away from Adam Gaudette. Good for him. I agree with you still from last week that I doubt it'll last. But at the same time, if Ottawa had a good streaming schedule, I'd go for him. If anything, he's bought himself some leash where maybe even if he has a bad game or two, he still holds that deployment a little bit longer. So that would be another reason to be more optimistic now that he continues to produce. Though, on the flip side, Ottawa lost today. So that might be a reason to switch things up, but we'll see. Okay, Brian, I'm not gonna let you eat that crow. Spit that out. I still think you were right.
Ottawa
Okay?
lost today, despite giving up just 13 shots against. The Isles beat them 4-2.
Anton
It's a
Forsberg is
rough start for Anton
Yeah.
Forsberg. Stopped 9 of 12 at
okay.
home. Oh, that's
Well,
demoralizing.
glad you didn't pay any money to go to that game. Thanks everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Keeping Karlsson. I've had a really fun time chatting with Brian and by proxy all of you over these last couple of hours. Hope that you got something out of this. We'd love to hear from you. Come hang out in the Discord. If you're a patron, let us know what you thought in episode discussion. If you agree or disagree with any of our takes, Trev will do that big post that he does after every episode in our accountability channel, writing down our most significant takes and then reporting back a month later on how we did. I'm curious. I haven't checked yet on how. Last week I said I wasn't gonna get anything wrong, so I'm hoping that's still going well. Let's not check the tape on that just yet. But yeah, if you want to join the fun in our Patreon community, check out keepingkarlsson.com/patron. But with that, Brian, let's cue the outro. But with that, Brian, let's cue the outro music. Why don't you get? And with that, Brian, let's cue the outro music. Why don't you go ahead and read us the credits and take us out of here?
All right. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dauber Hockey and powered by our patrons. Thank you all who support the show on a regular basis, on a monthly or annual basis, especially our super supporters, Patty, Ricard, David, Ryan, Connie, Tom, Stephen, Ryan, Zach, Andrea, Sammy, Caton, Philip, Aaron, Patrick, Brian, Michael, Roman, Top Cheese, Paul, Richard, and Nicola. Thank you all so much for your ongoing support. Thank you to our Cupful coordination team, Kevin Hebert and John Bruno. Thank you, Elon and Shams, for all of the fantasy news that you provide us over at GameDayTweets.com. Thank you to the Short Shifts crew. And thank you to BrandonWeeb.com for our logo art and to Pat Roach for our outro music. This episode was researched with help from Dauber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dauber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Puckpedia, The Athletic, HockeyGoalies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
Great job as always, Brian. Looking forward to another week of content on the Keeping Karlsson feed. A couple short shifts. I'll drop another matchup maximizer. Hope, by the way, that everyone liked my episode from yesterday, looking at next week's schedule. But until, Brian, we get back together in a week, any thoughts? Oh, aren't we going to do a Patreon cast also? We discussed. If you're a patron, stay tuned. I think we're doing one like Wednesday or Thursday. We'll report back soon with an official date. But for everyone else, you'll hear Brian and I chatting together in a week. Any thoughts as we head into, we're right in the middle of the fantasy season here. So looking forward to any words of wisdom on our way out here.
It's the same words of wisdom that I'll always give. Do what you can to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, friends.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Gonna go hang with the in-laws.
Shams Robertson scored, but like from a first line, it looks like. I don't know what's going on in Dallas. Like it was with Hintz and someone else.
Okay. They're winning. What's happening is W's.
Scoreboard.
All right. See you. I'm gonna end it now. End the stream. Bye.
Bye.